You're tuning in to the Raised by Rentals program. This podcast will contain strong language and spoilers for decades-old media properties.
Join us.
Welcome, everybody. This is the podcast where we examine pop culture franchises of the VHS era and improv news stories, because we're putting the slash back in slash fic to imagine how we might improve our favorite movies, TV, and games. I'm Josh.
I'm Mike.
And we were Raised by Rentals. Mike, it's Halloween. Woohoo!
Just out of curiosity, do we now have to write something pornographic because it's slash fic?
I mean, it's a horror movie themed season, so I mean, I just thought we were going for mullets, murder, and tits. I mean, isn't that like?
This is true. That is the trifecta we strive for.
Yeah, no. Maybe I don't understand what slash fic is. Soon, let me Google it. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. So. I said it's Halloween, and it is when you're listening to this, but as we record this, we still got 2 more days to go, but we are fully in the spoopy season. We've done multiple episodes ever since September, on our haunted hayride to the end of the year to keep everything spooky and spoopy. But this is our actual Halloween special, and we've been building up to something that I think is going to be maybe the most fun. Maybe, I don't know if it's as much fun as the Vengabus of Death, but this one I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, no, when we first thought of it, like when we were trying to figure out what we were going to do this Halloween, and we were kind of like spitballing suggestions, we kind of both landed in this same area. And I was really, really excited. And then I got really nervous. And then I got really excited again. like once I got my idea, I'm like, ooh, I have an idea now. So
yeah, same here. For having to only watch one movie as homework, I think I did more homework on this than I did on anything in a really long time. For the same reasons. I thought it was a great idea. And then I got super nervous about how difficult it was going to be. And then it was like, oh, fuck that. Like, we got this. This is going to be awesome.
Yep.
So I hope it turns out that way. But if you haven't seen the title of the episode, we are going to do our spin, our twist, our take on a sequel to Trick or Treat.
And we both know that, yes, there is a sequel in the works, but we've been hearing that song and dance since 2008. So, I know it's coming, but in the meantime, we'll do this.
Yeah, for sure. I know that, what's his name, Michael Dougherty. He's been talking about doing more Trick or Treat for a long time. Yeah, and who knows?
Right.
But I mean, he put out Krampus. He did, was it King of the Monsters, Godzilla, King of the Monsters? Yep. Yeah, and he's definitely been putting out some really good stuff. But yeah, hopefully the Trick or Treat sequel does come through. But we did the Thanksgiving episode for the Eli Roth trailer from Grindhouse, and now we're getting the actual Thanksgiving movie. I saw the trailer for it yesterday at the theater.
So did I. Same.
It looks so good. You probably went to see the Five Nights at Freddy's movie with your son, just like me, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what I did.
All right, we'll have to talk about that at the end.
All I'm going to say really quick is if you're a fan of the games, at all, like, this does not disappoint. It has a lot of stuff for the fans. So it's all.
Yeah, and I'll say, as someone who has never played the games, any of them, and I'm not really a fan of the franchise in general, I still thought it was a really well done movie. It's one of those movies where it wasn't for me, but I was really impressed with what they did. There were some really cool twists. There were some cool cameos and Easter eggs for like the older generation. And yeah, I was like legitimately enjoying myself to the point where when I had to go to the bathroom, I was like annoyed, and I was waiting for like, are they gonna do a montage or something? Because I gotta go, and I don't want to miss any dialogue.
Yep. Dude, my fat ass ran to the bathroom. I was like, I gotta go. It
was genuinely a good movie. So whether you're a fan of that franchise or not, definitely check out Five Nights at Freddy's. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Trick or Treat. And so let's get back to it. So one thing about Trick or Treat, the movie, that I think is awesome, and I think is at the heart of what makes this such a well-loved movie and really a modern classic. It's really just from 2007, right?
Yeah.
So I have it written down here, but I have so many notes. I have so many notes for today's episode that I'm already getting lost. Like I said, I did a lot of homework, and I'm trying not to just write everything out ahead of time, because I definitely want to do some improv in our storytelling, but it was hard not to try to coordinate some details, some on my own and some you and I did together before we started recording, just because we got to put this together. And if you've seen the movie, then you know that it's an anthology film that weaves together several stories with like a framing sequence. But unlike a lot of anthologies, in this one, the framing sequence and the individual chapters, they all tie together to tell like a bigger story.
Yep.
And while that's awesome, it's a bit of a challenge to try to replicate that. So we did have to coordinate a little bit, right? We had to kind of like put our heads together and make sure that the ideas that we had were going to fit. But what I was saying before is I think what makes the movie really so well beloved is not the anthology format, even though that is a classic format and trope within the history of horror cinema. Horror fans fucking love anthologies. But this movie is really about the traditions of Halloween and respecting those traditions.
Yes, absolutely.
So with that in mind, before we get into the good stuff, before we get into the meat of the story, just to loosen lips and get in the mood, I thought we could do something, Mike, that you had come up with as an idea for a potential episode topic where we would talk about the traditions of Halloween that we follow, like other than, some of them kind of obvious things that people do at Halloween, like trick-or-treating and dressing up in costumes. Mike, what are some of the things that you do that are traditions for you at Halloween?
Well, I mean, aside from the obvious stuff like, carving pumpkins with Caleb and Jess and, that kind of family friendly stuff. And I will say this here and I will say it forever. If you come to my house on Halloween, I don't give a damn how old you are. If you come to my house and you say trick or treat, you're getting candy. So screw that whole like, oh, they have to have this type of costume or they have to have an age kind of fuck that. I give candy to the parents that are with their kids. So give candy. Be generous, follow the rules.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, Sam will get you.
Yeah, I don't want to derail you, but I was reading some news stories recently about some towns. There was a few in Virginia and other places in the country where they were enacting town statutes that parents weren't allowed to wear costumes or go with their kids to trick or treat, and the kids had to, wear certain types of costumes and weren't allowed to wear masks. Or in one place, they were even trying to mandate how much candy you were allowed to give out. And I'm like, this is fucking bullshit, like taking all the fun out of it. And so, yeah, I'm the same way at my house is if you are leaving your house and you're following the fun of the tradition and you're going out and you're saying trick or treat and you're enjoying costumes and the spooky atmosphere, then you deserve the candy, especially if you're a teenager and you are still out there trick or treating like you were a little kid and you're still having fun. Hold on to that childhood. You're getting double handfuls from me.
Hells yeah. It's like last year, right when we got home from trick or treating, we brought in the candy bucket and all that because it's kind of getting dark out. And this group of teenagers showed up, and not a single one of them were in costume, but they were all happy. They were just like, trick or treat. I was like, you know what? Here you go. And I threw handfuls in every one of their bags because what am I going to, like, I don't want this candy sitting around. I'm going to eat it and I'm going to get fatter. So yeah, I was like, it's late. They're out. Have the candy.
Yeah, I mean, and teenagers, they all get to that phase where like they're too cool for everything, especially stuff they did when they were little. So yeah, I mean, if they're out there having fun, I had the same thing happen to me last year. We had all of our candy out on a table in the driveway, and I had it all decorated and looked all bloody and gross because we were trick or treating ourselves. Right. But then when I was at the house, yeah, this group of teenagers came up. Same thing. They were just wearing like hoodies with pillowcases, like they clearly it was like a last minute thing where they were bored at home and wanted to have some fun. And because I had it out on the table, I was just like, take what you want. And they were like, really? And like they would take one because I was standing there and I was like, take what you want. And like this one kid just like he just like swiped the corner of the table into his bag, and I'm like, this guy knows what's up.
Exactly. Like, I don't get people who gatekeep Halloween, man. It should be fun for everybody. Just have a blast. But
I know, right? Fuck, we should have done a rental rant episode prior to this. But anyway,
seriously,
keep going.
But yeah, as far as my yearly Halloween traditions, I have to go to a haunted house. Unfortunately, COVID put a kibosh on that for a couple years. But last year I did go to a haunted hayride with Maurice from the Boogeyman's Closet, and that was a lot of fun. This year, unfortunately, I'm so mad that we couldn't go. The same haunted hayride place had it's called Everhaunt. It's a little place out here in Western New York. They had CJ Graham there, in full Jason regalia chasing patrons.
Oh,
And I'm
shit.
like, and I couldn't go. I'm like, oh, come on. Like, I was
Oh.
so sad. But that would have been amazing, because that dude is, I mean, as nice as he actually is in person, he can turn on the terror at the drop of a hat. Like, dude is scary when he wants to be.
Oh, fuck
But
yeah.
but I always go to a haunted house. We did that this year, had a lot of fun. And then there's a couple movies that I always have to watch. Now, granted, I do my annual rewatch of Friday the 13th and the Halloween movies and stuff like that. I do that every year anyway. But I have to watch Night of the Living Dead and Frankenstein every Halloween. I always watch those, and I
Nice.
always watch the Charlie Brown Halloween special. It's a great, or was it the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown?
Yeah, it's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
I always have to watch that as well. So those are things that I do for me. And then the other thing I do for me, and I've been doing this for about like 10 years now, is I do some kind of drawing challenge. Now, I don't always get to complete it. I know last year I was working really hard on completing it, but we also had an art show in October, so I had a really hard time keeping up with the drawing challenge. I used to do Inktober and Drawloween every year, but ever since getting carpal tunnel, that's a lot harder to do multiple drawings every day. So this year I picked random movie monsters. I had no list. It was just, who do I feel like drawing today? And, gave him a funny little word balloon and threw it online and called it good.
Yeah, but they were good. I liked those. I enjoyed them.
Thank you. But yeah, no, I have to do a drawing challenge of some kind just for myself. I have to watch Night of the Living Dead. I have to watch Frankenstein. Have to watch Charlie Brown, and go to a haunted house. Those are things I must do. Of course, there are things I have to eat this time of year. Like, I always get apple cider.
Nice.
We always have some kind of like squash dish, whether it's like tonight we're having spaghetti squash, which I love, or we'll do like the roasted white pumpkins with the sausage and rice stuffing and all that. Like, we usually have some kind of like festive Halloween dish. But yeah, and then of course I have my candy. I have my list of candy that I only get around this time of year.
Nice.
I never eat candy corn, but I have to at least have a couple candy corns around Halloween.
Nice.
It's one of those things, I just gotta try it.
Yeah, you have to at least have some, even if you don't like it. It's like, for some people, like fruitcake. I actually like fruitcake, but some people will eat it. Or like mincemeat pie. At least in my family growing up, people ate mincemeat pie at Christmas time. Even if you didn't like it, you would take like a no thank you helping.
Yep.
But again, I actually do like it. So yeah, I don't usually think about foods that much. That's actually interesting. There are foods that we eat at certain times of the year, but Halloween isn't one of them. It's not like Thanksgiving or Christmas where there's always like a special dish. But yeah, that's actually interesting. I'll have to think about maybe something we can do. But yeah, anything else, Mike?
Nope. It's pretty much just the standard, decorating and trick or treating and helping Caleb with costumes. And if I dress up, I almost always dress up as a mad scientist because it's nice and easy.
Yeah.
I just get a bloody lab coat and a weird set of goggles, and I'm good. But yeah, that's about it.
That's awesome. For me, it's like we do the typical things too. Like, we carved pumpkins last night. We decorate the house and the yard. And here, I'm actually going to text you a photo I took last night of our giant skeleton. We got him all set up. He's actually he's been in the yard for like a week or two, but we were really busy with camping, and I had an in-person work conference, and it was our 20th anniversary a couple of days ago, Christina and I. So we've been so busy that I didn't get a chance to like finish the decorations until just this weekend. But actually, I didn't decorate that much this year compared to what we normally do. We normally go all out with, I got skeletons and cobwebs and spiders. And I started the tradition in my neighborhood that now my neighbors steal from me of putting the red balloon in the sewer outside on the sidewalk.
That's awesome.
My balloons say "I heart dairy" on them. But yeah, I watch movies. I do my Friday the 13th rewatch. I didn't finish it this year, but that's okay, because one thing I've learned is I like to take the pressure off, just in terms of the October Halloween season. We do classic movies that the whole family likes, like Beetlejuice and It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. I'm not the biggest fan of Hocus Pocus, but we always end up watching it because the kids really like it. Some of those movies, Sleepy Hollow, nothing super gory. This isn't gory month for us. This is like fun Halloween month. So those are the movies we tend to go for. I always pick a stack of spooky comics or books to read or listen to. I posted my comics up on Instagram, and I actually ended up adding some to the pile. Mars Attacks is like in the ether this year, and I ended up reading some Mars Attacks comics myself. I love to curate like a thematic pile. It's sort of like the employee pick of the comics that I want to read this year. But on Halloween itself, there's actually only two things, other than the trick-or-treating, there's only really two things that I have to do every year, and they don't take that long, is I have to listen to the audiobook recording of Click Clack the Rattle Bag by Neil Gaiman, which, if you've never read it or listened to it, is fucking awesome. It's just a short story. It's only about 1,300 words. The audiobook is 12 minutes long, and Neil Gaiman reads it himself. It is spooky as fuck. It's my favorite, like, short, scary story. It's scary in the best way because it's all in your head. You imagine everything that's bad is happening. None of it is on the page or, spoken in the audio drama. It is awesome. And so every time on Halloween day, if I need to make a run to the store, boom, Click Clack the Rattle Bag is going on. So you can just Google it. It's free everywhere, all over the internet. You can read it. You can listen to it. He actually gave it out for free originally in 2012 as an All Hallows Read fundraiser special. It's fucking great. And awesome. The other one is I have to listen to the 13-minute full version of the song Halloween by Halloween.
Nice.
Which is my favorite Halloween song of all time. It's from 1986 from the Keeper of the Keys Part 1 album. They're like a German power metal band, very fucking 80s. The video is amazingly 80s, and it's so corny. There's the 4-minute edited version and the full-length 13-minute version. Mike McCoy, fellow Red Pantheon member, recently posted his Halloween playlist of great songs and was looking for some suggestions, and I had to put that at the top of my list. You gotta listen to Halloween by Halloween. The band is Halloween, the song is Halloween, but just Google it. It's worth it.
See, I definitely have my 7+ hour playlist on Spotify of my spoopy music that I will put on every year when I'm at work. I annoy people with my Christmas playlist and my Halloween playlist.
Yeah.
Because yes, I have like 4 different versions of the Monster Mash. I'm that guy.
Hey, me too. I also have a really long Halloween playlist. Yeah, and mine is really eclectic too. It's everything from power metal to classical to to jazz to like little kid songs that my kids like. The spooky scary skeletons and all that stuff. And so I love a shuffle. That's how I like to listen to music pretty much at any point. I'm a big fan of playlists. I love to just hit shuffle and be surprised by every song that comes on, especially when it's a crazy genre twist. I love that. Jump from metal, to jazz or blues that's my favorite thing because I like to, mix it up and keep it interesting.
My Christmas playlist, I think the reason it annoys so many of my coworkers, and the funny thing is I don't actually work with anybody. So when they hear me playing music, it's either when they come in or when they're going home. So it's not like I force them to listen to my music. It's just like they happen to still be there when I start my shift or I'm ending my shift.
Right.
And they're like, "What are you listening to? Oh my God." But it's like my Christmas playlist in particular will go from like crooner style music to punk. And it'll switch back and forth constantly because I have so many different like crooner style songs and so many punk covers of Christmas songs that I absolutely love. So it'll bounce back and forth between those a lot. Now my Halloween playlist, I mean, it runs the gamut, like you said, freaking hair metal, classical, like everything is in there. So, that's just like a weird mix of everything.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely do the Bing Crosby to the Vandals at Christmas time too.
Same.
So I'll segue us back into the topic. I have so many more things in my notes that I wanted to talk about, but I think this actually is a good segue, talking about the genre twist and wanting to mix it up. Like the shuffle is a fun way to approach entertainment. And that's, I think, part of the reason why I love anthologies in general. I've mentioned before that I have literally hundreds of comic book anthologies. I even made a whole list of like, here's all my favorite ones that you should go read. And I'm really resisting the urge to just read them or read off the list,
Right.
But there's the 2000 AD and the heavy metal and all the EC comics from the 50s, like the Vault of Horror and Tales from the Crypt. Like those are all anthologies, and a lot of them, have become very influential in the horror and sci-fi genre all these decades later. So I'm a big fan of anthologies because it's like you get a little taste of something and then you go on to the next thing. And I love it too when it's like a genre twist or a different artist or a writer. Like maybe I'm just impatient, maybe I just have ADHD, but like I want something different, more.
Right.
So yeah, and Trick or Treat, like I said before, it's this really great anthology. I really like, I guess you could recall it a narrative anthology. So I like the approach of having this framing sequence that actually is a part of the story. So you don't just have the Crypt Keeper introducing a story, or something like in Creepshow where there's someone who's reading or telling stories, but the framing sequence that connects all of the shorter chapters together is like the thing that brings it all into this one larger tapestry.
Right. Well, and we talked a little bit about this off the air, and I know we talked about it in the Boogeyman's Closet a few times, where when you have a tale like Trick or Treat, where all of the stories are happening simultaneously in the same area with the same groups of people, where they do overlap, they do connect. It is still an anthology, but it feels like one big story. Tales of Halloween does that beautifully, where again, it's 10 short stories all happening in the same town on the same night. And, if you're paying close attention, you can see the different characters crossing over with one another throughout the stories. Like there's a great sequence where there's a stolen car in one of the stories, and then later in that night, we see somebody else coming home almost get hit by that car. So it's like that happens a lot in that. And then I know another one we discussed was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, where it's like that's more like one big movie, but it has the little vignettes that take place within that town. So I personally love that. I think that's probably my favorite type of anthology. But I'm also a sucker for Tales from the Crypt and Creepshow, and give me any anthology, I'll eat it up. Like I know some people hate them, I fucking love them. So
yeah. All right, I think we've done enough of a preamble. I hope people are still with us, and I hope everyone listening is interested in these types of anthologies and these traditions as well. And I hope everyone out there is respecting the traditions of Halloween today. Hopefully you're listening to this the day it comes out, so we get those good download numbers.
Right. Exactly.
So here's how we're going to do this, Mike. I'm going to explain this to you as if you are the audience, even though you already know these things. So what we're going to do is we are going to do a sequel to Trick or Treat. We're going to try to copy the format of a framing sequence with shorter chapters. And because there's two of us and we're going to kind of take turns, we thought the way that it would work best would be for you to have 2 chapters. I'll have 2 chapters. We'll collaborate on the framing sequence, but just like in the first movie where Sam had his little sequence at the beginning where he kills the lady for disrespecting the decorations, and then at the end there's a longer story with Krieg the bus driver. So in this case, I'll do the shorter sequence to kind of give Sam his his part 1 or his prologue, and then you can do your story for the longer, like the where it's like the real Sam story at the end. So that way we each have like 3 ideas.
Sounds good to me.
All right. So we did have to brainstorm this ahead of time a little bit just so that we wouldn't copy each other inadvertently or step on each other's toes. So we talked about it a little bit, and I think this is really going to fit together pretty well.
But
so
to be fair, all we did really talk about, because I'm sure we are going to have a few like back up, hold on, slow down, like redo moments, because all we really talked about ahead of time was the topic of each of our stories. So like Josh knows that I have, like the topic for each of my 2 main stories. He doesn't know what's going to happen in them. He just knows what it involves. And then like we did discuss like how we could weave Sam into different stories without actually knowing what the other one's story is. So it's still going to be a total improv. Like we're still like, I have no clue what you're going to bring to the table with your two stories other than the theme of them. So
Yeah, well, it's just kind of like we did with the Venga Bus of Death and Hot Garbage, where like there's an elevator pitch that we had to share so that it wouldn't be,
yes.
completely out of left field. But yeah, anyway, let's just jump right in. So we're gonna take turns. So I'll go first with my same story, then you'll go with your chapter, and we'll go back and forth so that I'll start, you'll end, since we have even numbers here. Okay, so very much like in the quote unquote real movie or the first movie or whatever you want to call it. Again, the focus is on the traditions of Halloween, and Sam is kind of enforcing them. I don't know that they ever really explain what Sam is, but that's what he's doing. He's observing people who are disrespecting Halloween, and then he's course correcting.
Right.
He's like judge, jury, and executioner. You see people who are smashing pumpkins, blowing out jack-o'-lanterns, taking down Halloween decorations, not wanting to like dress in a costume or not wanting to hand out candy, et cetera, et cetera. Or just, saying that Halloween is stupid. Like this lady did at the beginning of the movie. And I'm just like, oh, that was dumb.
Yep.
So I wanted to keep that going. And so, Mike, I'm going to throw you a curveball because we did talk a little bit, as you mentioned, but not about everything. So here's my curveball. I was adding this to our episode list that I keep. And every time I add it to the list, I try to come up with a title for the episode, for the podcast episode. And sometimes it's a pun or sometimes it's kind of obvious, like back to school where it was a two, ha ha ha. Goonies 2, TOO, whatever. But so I wrote this down. I thought trick or treat 2, what? Trick or treat what? And then it occurred to me, it came to me. Just like that rhyme, right? Trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something good to eat. And I thought, oh man, if this were a real movie, I would call it Trick or Treat, Good to Eat. That would be my title.
Nice.
And so as I was thinking about that, I was thinking that's a great theme of having monsters or spirits or killers or whatever it is, but there's got to be a theme of eating. How do we work that title in, Good to Eat? And I think we can do that pretty easily, but I kind of want to throw it out there to see what you think about it.
I'm just thinking how nicely that fits in with one of my two stories and how that technically can kind of fit into the second one. So that's pretty I'm down. I like it.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, sweet. It does fit into my stories too. Again, I had the advantage because I thought of it first. But at the same time, when I was coming up with my ideas, I was trying to think of classic anthology tropes and classic Halloween traditions while still, doing something interesting. So again, enough preamble. We've said it already. So here's what we're going to do. We need to open up with a scene where Sam, the spirit of Halloween vengeance or whatever he is observing somebody who is disrespecting Halloween. And so what I want to do is I want to have a trick-or-treater. And Sam is basically a trick-or-treater himself. But I want to have this trick-or-treater, and it's that asshole teenager. Not the one like we talked about earlier who come out and they try to still have fun like they're kids. This is the one who thinks he's too fucking cool, and he's this asshole bully who just goes around and just steals people's candy bags.
Who basically just ruins Halloween for everybody.
Yeah, he's just a little bastard. He's walking around, he sees these little kids, and he's just going to push them around, take their bag of candy, and then like go sit somewhere and smoke cigarettes and eat like mini Snickers, and then, or he's just going to steal their candy and like dump it in the sewer while the kids cry because he's a prick.
Sounds about right.
Okay, so that's like the whole story right there. I mean, but we can kind of work out the beats of like, okay, so we're gonna let's open on not him, but let's open on some other character who we can kind of be like, we can almost like a little red herring of like, oh, not this bitch, but we're gonna pan the camera over and see this kid.
I think like the first movie opens, we have that like little comic montage after the first kill. So why don't, instead of just doing the first kill and the comic montage, why don't we kind of mix the two together? So we do an overview of the town. So what is the town? I know you wrote it down. I forget.
It is Warren Valley, Ohio.
Thank you. Warren Valley, Ohio. So from the first movie, we know that there is a huge party. It's their annual Halloween tradition. We know everyone's out having a blast. So why don't we do that? Why don't we start the movie where we see, like the Warren Valley, Ohio, like Halloween party, whatever year this movie takes place in, big banner across the street, people getting like into the Halloween spirit. Like you see kids running around in costume, people are giving out candy, and let's zone in on this one particular bitch who I want to pop up throughout the story. Just a total Karen. Let's name her Brenda. Just I don't know why that name fits for me, but she's got she's got the Karen do. She's kind of like that frumpy middle-aged, like totally muffin topping around her skinny jeans, like just an angry person. And let's see, like her maybe wandering out of a Starbucks or something, bitching that her pumpkin spice latte is too cold or too hot. There we go. It's too hot, yelling at and then like walk out and like shove a little kid, like, what do you want? Get out of my way, and just kind of like see like there's this person because I want her to come back later. But we'll pan through the town. Maybe we'll see a black cat running along the side of the street, and we could see just different things. Like we see like the farmland outside of town and all that. But yeah, we could then zoom in on this one particular character that you're talking about, so we could kind of like get an overview of the town kind of while the opening credits play, and then hone in on this character that you want to tell a tale about.
Okay, no, that's perfect. I like this idea. I'm glad you mentioned the idea of seeing the town, introducing Warren Valley sort of as like a character, because it has this tradition we see in the first movie where Halloween is huge here, to the point where there's like camera crews, news crews out here that are documenting it because Warren Valley goes all out for Halloween. It's like Mardi Gras or something. So I think that's awesome. Yeah, we can kind of pan around town. Like you said, we could maybe we're hearing the voiceover of like someone who, this Karen that is just bitching about like, I ordered, this, latte pumpkin spice, double whip, no foam, whatever the fuck. And just like
this egregiously long list. Yes.
Yeah. And it's just like, I can't believe you can't even do your job. Like, what do they pay you? Oh, and you want more than minimum wage and blah, 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 blah. And you're hearing this Karen rant while the camera is moving. It'll be one of these awesome, like single shots, like, that great directors just love to do, where it's like a single camera move shot. And so it might just go down one street, but we're going to touch on things that are going to come back later, like that we're going to see, like you said, black cats, scarecrows, Halloween decorations. Like maybe we kind of like see this, like the old creepy farmhouse. We see the trick-or-treaters, and maybe we'll even catch sight of some of our characters that like we'll retroactively know who's going to be there, like later on, right? But and that kind of happened in the first movie too, where once you know what is happening, when you go back and watch it again, you watch the opening sequence and you realize that several characters who show up later are in that very first scene. Right, in the car or crossing the street or whatever. So we're gonna kind of follow this voiceover to the voice of the Karen who is disrespecting this like Starbucks employee or whatever it is, maybe to the point of like throwing the coffee at them and demanding they remake it. Just like egregiously awful.
Just like a really nasty person. Exactly.
And then they're going to walk out with their coffee, and just like you said, where they're going to like bump into they walk out with their coffee, bump into some trick-or-treater kid and like push him out of the way and be like, oh, what do you want, you little bastard? Like, whatever. And the trick-or-treater kid then bumps into this like teenager in like a leather jacket and, a hand-rolled cigarette and like greasy hair and like a big zit on his nose. And this kid, I'm going to call him Scott. And I don't know why. Like, I just think like Scut Farkus from A Christmas Story.
It fits.
So Scott's going to be like, yeah, little bitch. And he's going to grab this trick-or-treater's candy. So this poor little kid in the ghost outfit looking like Charlie Brown just gets pushed by a Karen and then gets his candy stolen by this big kid.
You know who I'm picturing? Did you see 8-Bit Christmas?
No.
Oh, damn. There's this like metalhead kid in 8-Bit Christmas who's been like held back several grades, and he's just like the long greasy hair, the jean jacket, the fingerless gloves, and like the unlaced Doc Martens. Like that's just kind of what I'm picturing with this kid.
Yeah, 100% for sure. Yeah, this kid, he doesn't have a great home life. He's definitely dirty. We'll talk after we're done recording, but I was listening to some old Boogeyman's Closet episodes recently, partly because you already covered Trick or Treat way back in Boogeyman's Closet episode 20. And like super early days, Susie hadn't even been on the show for that long at that time. But I was curious to see like what you guys had mentioned, and then I was like, oh, I want to go back and listen to some more. I listened to the very, very first episode of the Boogeyman's Closet where you talked about the Halloween remake, the Rob Zombie one, with Tara and Mike McCoy, and you guys were talking about how in every Rob Zombie movie all the characters just look dirty and greasy.
Yes.
Yeah.
They totally do. They look like they'd be sticky to the touch and smell of like dumpster juice.
Yes. It's funny too because you even used the phrase "hot garbage" in that episode, and you talked about the Friday the 13th remake in the snow when you guys did the Friday the 13th remake episode 3, and I'm like, so many like Raised by Rentals foreshadowing moments.
Exactly.
Anyway, so we have Scott. He steals this kid's candy, and then he's gonna, yank it out of his hand. He's gonna walk down the sidewalk, and he's just picking candy out of the bag and just like chucking it, like doesn't like this one, and the kid's just watching him like fucking crying, like while this teenager is just like throwing his candy on the sidewalk, and then other kids are like jumping to get it like piñata candy, and
right.
It's like this kid's just having the worst Halloween ever. This little kid, but Scott walks off. He takes like one piece of candy out of the bag that he likes, and it's got to be something that like the average person wouldn't think is good candy, like just to kind of drive the point home of like this kid's a dick and he's gonna eat like the Necco wafers or something.
Fucking Necco wafers, man.
Oh god, or like a Zagnut, or like for me it would be the Heath bar because those things are gross no matter what Don says.
I actually agree with Don. I love them. But I hate Necco wafers. Oh my god, I hate those chalky discs of death.
What's weird is that Tegan loves Necco wafers. They like old people candy. They eat Necco wafers and like black licorice. But anyway,
my mom, she would always buy Necco wafers and Good and Plenty. Like she loved those. Oh, okay. And I freaking hated them as a kid.
Oh, that's actually perfect. Good and Plenty. He takes out the little box and opens it and have him just like dump it on his mouth, and like half of it ends up on the ground because he's just being super disrespectful. And then you see somebody like watching him from like across the street, Mm-hmm. And of course it's already dark. It's not full dark, but the sun's going down. It's about to be the golden hour for Halloween trick-or-treating. The kids are already out, but yeah, you see someone breathing in a mask and like he's watching them across the street. And then Scott, he takes someone else's bag of candy. So the kids are walking down the street and he just purse snatches it right out of his hand, and maybe these kids turn and they want to confront him, and then Scott's gonna like push him and bully him, and it's like not only is he stealing their candy, but this is like a teenager and he's like pushing around like 11-year-olds. Just drive home what a dick this guy is. So this doesn't need to be a long story, but it just needs to be Scott. He's gonna take his stolen candy, he's gonna dump some down the sewer, throw it all over the sidewalk, spill half of it in his mouth, and then he's gonna go sit in like the alley by the gas station next to the dumpster because that's why he stinks so bad. And he's gonna like hand roll a cigarette or a joint or something, and just sit there eating whatever Good and Plenty's like got stuck in his jacket or whatever, because we got to get him alone.
One thing I want to add, just because it will come back later, is when he's sitting in the alley, like he hears something. And have him like look like, what is that? And have it just be like a black cat sitting near the garbage cans, and nice. Have him just like throw a rock or something at it, have it hiss and run off, because that black cat will come back later. So nice.
Oh yeah, perfect. Okay, yeah, and hell, he can even like swipe at some Halloween decorations or something while he's going down the sidewalk too. Like just again make it worse and worse.
Right.
Yeah. So now we just got to bring Sam into the alley and kind of introduce who Sam is and what he's there for. We don't necessarily need to show him. I mean, it's not that big of a secret if you've seen the first movie, but for anyone coming into this blind, it's here comes Sam, and maybe it's just that. Okay, maybe Scott does that thing where he hears something and it's that cat, and he like throws like a rock at it, and then he's just sitting there. He's like, oh, whatever, fuck, I'm out of candy. He's smoking his cigarette, and then he hears something else, and he's like, the fucking cat, and he like goes and he throws something, but his arm freezes before he throws it because he doesn't see a cat. He sees like a silhouette of like a little kid at the end of the alleyway, like staring at him.
Nice.
And he's going to be like, get the fuck out of here, little kid, like whatever, yelling at him. The kid he's not moving. He's just standing there. And then he's going to get up and be like, I told you to fucking get out of here, punk, go back to mommy. And of course, the silhouette's not going to move. And then Scott's going to like, oh God, he's going to like, stomp over to it. Be like, all right, you little bitch, like, give me your candy. What do you got? And he's going to go and try and steal whatever candy Sam has. But Sam's going to have some kind of surprise in his little candy bag.
I love where you're going with this, but follow me for a sec. So yeah, he sees the kid at the end of the hall, or end of the alley. He goes over and he's like, "Get the fuck out of here!" And just have Sam like kind of tilt his head and open his bag up like a trick or treat kind of thing. Nice. And have the kid be like, "Yeah, okay," and then like hork a big fucking loogie into his bag.
Oh, yeah.
And then have Sam just fucking launch on him like a howler monkey.
Yes.
Like kind of the way he did with the bus driver, who he was just like, "Rah!" like jumped on him.
Oh, for sure. And the camera should pan away. Like cut away. So it's like you're imagining and you're hearing crunching and biting and like liquid spurting, Yep. And then we'll pan away to that. Maybe that cat is like now sitting on like the dumpster or whatever, just kind of watching. And then we'll pan back and the cat's going to jump down and like walk through like the little blood puddle and little cat blood marks. And then you're going to kind of see like what's left of Scott laying there.
I think, okay, so yeah, I love this. I love the pan out. You hear the screaming, maybe like we hear squelching sounds like Sam is ripping this dude apart. And like we pan over to the cat, like kind of watching the melee. Maybe we could even see some of it on like a shadow on the wall of the alley, and have the cat just kind of tilting its head and then just like, meow, and walk away. And then I like the idea of the crunching because that can transition into my first story. So if we hear like the crunching and chewing, like you said, maybe we pan by and we just see pieces of Scott littering the alley.
Yes. Yes, that's perfect.
Just like bloody pieces. But we focus in on that chewing sound.
Mm-hmm.
Screen go black and open up to a guy eating an apple.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Okay. So this'll cut. I'm sorry. Were you done? I didn't want to cut you off.
No, that's perfect. I'm done. That's all it was. It was just we got to kill Scott, and I think crunching and biting and ripping him to shreds, and like, just getting to imagine what happens to him is a great way to start the story. When he's like the ultimate dickhead trying to ruin Halloween. But yeah, right. Go.
So now I know that none of the tales in Trick or Treat had a title in the movie. It was just kind of in the credits in the script.
Sure.
But I'm just gonna tell people like that I have titles for all three of mine. They're simple. So this one I just called The Harvest.
Okay.
So we pan in on an old guy eating an apple, and maybe he's sitting there. It's like an old happy farmer, like just an older dude on the outskirts of town. He's chewing an apple. We see his wife, nice little old lady. She's like making tea or something. They're talking, and there's a work hand, this guy who's been working with them, who's been helping them pull in the apple harvest and all that. And we find out that they're just, they're two old farmers who've been living on the outskirts of this town for years, growing apples in an apple orchard, and selling cider and apples and stuff to the townsfolk.
Okay.
So they brought in this guy, and we're going to find out a little bit about his backstory, that he was a homeless guy who kind of wandered into town, who, needed a job. These people took him in, had him help them on the farm. Like, hey, we're not as spry as we used to be, and our kids have all grown and moved away, and, we need some help around the farm. So this guy, super thankful that they gave him a job, gave him a roof over his head, just just super nice, like thanking them constantly.
Sure.
And they go out to look at the harvest and be like, that we had a really good pull this year, and then have like the farmer clap the helper on the back, and then the wife stabs him in the throat. Just
oh shit.
kills the worker. And then we see, the old people just kind of smile, take in the fall air, and drag him off to the shed. Where I want them to basically dispose of his corpse by burning it and spreading the ashes around the apple orchard.
Oh, it's like fertilizer.
Exactly. So, because there's that whole thing with wood ash. You put wood ash around the, the trees to it's like a natural fertilizer, and it helps like keep the bugs away. So this is going to be two very awful people who have been systematically taking in, homeless folk and drifters, stuff like that, and killing them every year to help their harvest. So
Okay.
One thing we're going to focus on is a scarecrow in the middle of the crop.
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
perfect.
after we see them sprinkle the ashes, I want the scarecrow to start to twitch.
Oh,
So
okay.
we'll go from here. So now you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just picturing like, the wind picks up heavier than before, and like, it starts, you hear, like, I don't know, whatever the old couple is, they're gonna like, come in, Pa, like, close the windows, whatever, kind of like batting the hatches kind of a thing, because like the
Yep.
wind's picking up, and then you see that scarecrow twitch, and like, is it the wind? I mean, maybe,
Right. It's kind of like, did that move, or was that, because everything's so blustery out?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, bluster. That's the right word for it. Perfect.
So yeah. So I figure I didn't even name these two. So whatever. Should we name them, or should we just call them Mom and Pa?
Yeah, sure. We can name them. Let's see. Okay, no Mikes, no Joshes, no Billies, no Sams.
No.
Let's see. Let's see.
The first thing that came to my mind was Edgar and Phyllis.
There you go. Boom. Edgar, Phyllis. Done. They sound like old like farming couple for
Right,
sure.
I was like Edgar and Phyllis. I like that. So okay, so yeah, so we see clearly they're bad people and they've been murdering folks. Maybe we could even see like in their house, like they have, like a bunch of photos with like different help.
Oh yeah, like they're standing there with their arms around some like random drifter or migrant worker, and then
Right.
like in every picture there's like a different one. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. No, that'd be
So
awesome.
so they've been doing this for a while. And it's Halloween night. Maybe you shouldn't have done it on Halloween night.
Yeah,
you know?
that's where they done fucked up. Yeah, no, I think this is great. So we gotta if the scarecrow, if I'm following you right, and the scarecrow is gonna be like our creature, our monster here,
Mm-hmm.
we gotta build up some suspense. Like, so yeah, blustery wind. Don't really know if the scarecrow really moved yet. Maybe. So yeah, we'll pan into the house. Yeah, we'll see the couple, Edgar and Phyllis. They're in there. They're getting ready for dinner, or maybe we can kind of drag forward the imagery of like the innocent apples that seem kind of creepy. Maybe she's like chopping up apples for an apple pie with like a big knife, like bigger than she needs, kind of
Right.
a thing, right? Just to kind of drive that home. And yeah, maybe Edgar's gonna come in from the wind and be like, oh, like, don't know where that windstorm kicked up from, but I got the whatever. He's got the animals in the pen, whatever he's gonna say. Like, they're all like ready to get cozy for the night. I can't wait for that apple pie tonight, Ma. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe like the power goes out. And of course they're going to be like, oh, damn wind, the lines out here ain't what they used to be. And Edgar's going to go outside because he's going to go see if he can reset the breaker or whatever, leaving Phyllis inside. I'm just thinking of ways to separate them. And it's like, it's dark, they're separated, they're innocently looking into something, and now there's like opportunity.
You know what? I like that, but let's have that be a red herring.
Okay.
Or like a fake out. So yes, we have the power go out. I love this idea. So Edgar gets up. He's like, well, I gotta go. Check the breaker, and he goes outside, and they have one of those like the double door storm cellar type things.
Yep.
He goes down there, and he's and then we're gonna have all these opportunities for jump scares. So like maybe a black cat scares him again, something like that.
That fucking cat.
Yeah, it's like that cat came back, like just something like that. And then we have like maybe he walks through a spider web and is like just a bunch of like little fake outs. Turn on the lights, everything's fine. Goes back inside. They sit down, start talking. Maybe he's bitching about the weather, like, every year when it gets like this, damn power lines go out on us, or some line, complaining about the power going out. But then have like we hear like a bunch of clatter outside, like a bunch of shit sounds like it's getting broken, and have them run outside and find like the barn where they stored all their bushels of apples that were going to go to town have all been like knocked over. A bunch have been smashed, like there's apple chunks everywhere. And have them be like, oh, sons of bitches, little bastards always pulling Halloween pranks, no respect for their elders, just bitching. So Edgar's out there, like pissed off, and maybe Phyllis goes, she's like, like, oh, I'll go finish dinner or whatever, and goes inside while he's cleaning up. And this is where we can have the scarecrow come for her.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Okay, back up just for a quick second. Just two
Yeah.
little details I thought would be fun is one when Edgar comes back from like getting the power back on. Yeah, he definitely saw that black cat. We gotta have the cat jump scare,
Hmm.
obviously. So when he comes back in, have him say something, like, "Oh, that fucking black cat is here again, again." It's like
Yes.
that black cat's always around. And then so when they hear the crash and clatter, and just maybe have Phyllis be like, "I bet you it's that damn cat again," and it's like, so they're not thinking it's anything, and of course Edgar's gonna go
Ah,
out. Edgar's gonna go
perfect.
out there. Maybe Edgar goes out there and is just like, "Oh, this wasn't this cat. This is those damn kids again." He's kind of like, muttering to himself as people do, but while telling the
Hmm.
audience things. And then maybe he just we see it's that horror movie thing where like a silhouette runs across the camera in the foreground, and in the background we see Edgar turn his head and like look real quick at the camera. So it's like he sees something running, like a shadow of something, and then that's when he's like, "You fucking kids, get out of here with your damn pranks every year. Like next time egg the house like normal people. Whatever, right?"
Exactly. Stay away from my crops.
Exactly. But I just think it would be kind of fun just to have that, like, okay, there's definitely somebody there. But yeah,
Right.
then we're gonna go back into the house, and Phyllis is just like, same thing, kind of muttering to herself, like you said, like, "Okay, well, I guess I'll finish the pie." She's almost like annoyed, like, "What the stupid Halloween, it was always fucking with like the peace and quiet of our home." It's kind of what she's thinking to herself. But yeah, so now she's still in the house. But Edgar's going to stay out there and like pick stuff up, all the
Yeah.
shit that fell over. So yeah. Anyway, back to the house with Phyllis is alone.
Right. No, I love that. That is absolutely perfect. So yeah, so we have Phyllis, in the house, like she's working on dinner. Maybe we see like, she bends down, we see like a camera angle from like her opening the oven, so we see like from inside the oven,
Oh,
and we
nice.
we see like a shaky legged person walking up behind her. Like, like walking a little like uneven on its feet,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
and then like, she closes the oven, so we think someone's right behind her. She turns, no one's there, but the big knife that she was chopping the apples with is gone.
Oh, yes.
So she's
Oh,
like, go ahead, go for it.
sorry. Okay, I had one of those like light bulb ideas just pop just for a creepy thing.
Mhm.
So you've been to a cornfield, right? When the wind blows, you can almost hear this like rattling noise
Oh, hell yeah.
especially if the husks are dry a little bit. And it's not exactly like a rattlesnake rattle, but like it's that same idea. So what if right when earlier we saw the silhouette run in front of the camera when Edgar thought it was the trick-or-treaters or the guys playing pranks, we hear that just this little little rattling sound of like,
I like it.
corn husks rubbing together. And then we jumped forward exactly what you just said. The reason, Phyllis kind of jumps up, maybe she jumps up nervous a little bit. She's in the oven looking for putting the pie in, and then she hears this little rattle of corn husks rubbing together, and kind of stands up real quick, like she heard something. But yeah, there's nobody there. The knife is gone. We kind of add this audible element, a theme. It's like the Jason
Hmm.
music kind of a thing.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, no, I love it. That's perfect. Because again, like he's all stuffed with like hay and old corn husks and shit, so he would be making that noise when he moves around. So
Perfect.
that's perfect. But yeah, so have her turn around and have her look and be like, my knife is gone. Like, what the hell? And start looking around and be like, "Oh, Phyllis, I swear you'd lose your head if it wasn't screwed on," that kind of
Yeah.
commentary. And then like, have her yell outside to Edgar, be like, "What's going on? What's taking so long out there?" And I'd be like, "Damn kids knocked over all the apple buckets." He's all pissed off.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Oh my," and turn around and have the scarecrow just standing right in front of her.
Oh
And it's got
God.
that like the big painted on grin. Like I'm picturing him looking kind of like Scarecrow from Return to Oz, where it's the big
Nice.
painted on face, like the burlap sack with the hay sticking out of it, but he's got like the
Hmm.
big rosy cheeks and like the big like maybe not button eyes, but like big white dots where his eyes should be, like and having just that big
Hmm.
animated grin. And before she can scream, he just fucking shoves the knife in her throat.
Oh
Just like,
yeah. Nice.
you know, very much like, she killed the drifter by stabbing him in the throat.
Nice.
He just
Perfect.
like, and like just cuts off her scream, and she's like just gurgling, and he's just watching her, head tilted. And then we can even like focus back on him and just hear that squelching and twisting, like he's pulling and messing with the knife, and then just see blood spatter across his mask. And then he just kind of
Nice.
happily bobs away.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. It's like he's gonna take a second to twist that knife and pop a couple arteries.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's a little bit more twisted than just like a little slasher monster where it's like death to you and on to the next one. He's gonna take a second and enjoy it.
Yeah, and especially because he's got a painted on grin, I just find that creepy.
Oh
It's like
yeah,
he's so
absolutely.
happy about it.
Okay, so now that Phyllis is dead, obviously Edgar's next. Now we don't have other people here for like a slasher body count, and it's a short story,
Yeah.
so we got to get Edgar, but it's got to be harder, right? Edgar's got to be tougher. Like not necessarily that the Scarecrow's having a hard time, because it would be funny if it was almost effortless for him, but Edgar's gonna try to run, try to fight back, whatever. I just kind of want to like I don't want it to be quite so cut and dry.
But bumps. Actually, that
Yes.
would have been a fun title too, Cut and
Yeah.
Dry. So yeah, so we'll have Edgar out there, like he's picking up the buckets, putting away the barrels, and then maybe he does something like while he's got his back to the open barn door, like we see the big, the light from outside, like from the spotlight in the yard or whatever,
Sure.
shining and casting like a big white light spot on the back of the barn, and then we just see like a shadow kind of sidle into frame behind Edgar, so we see it like projected on the wall of the barn, and have him like look up and be like, "Oh, Phyllis, is that you?" And he turns and he sees the fucking Scarecrow. And maybe Edgar ain't dumb. Maybe as soon as he sees like a fucking walking Scarecrow, he's like, "Who are you? What do you want?" The Scarecrow takes a step toward him and he's gone. He just starts running. Edgar's like, "Fuck this."
Yeah, exactly.
So have him like running through, he runs out of the other side of the barn. He's running through the apple orchard, and we just see like the Scarecrow bobbing along behind him, like just again that painted on grin, now covered in blood, just like staggering along. He's running, he's getting lost in the apple orchard, like he's running around, he's tripping over shit. He's doing all the horror movie tropes. You're moving too quick and not watching where you're going, so you're gonna stumble. He's gonna get back up. He's scraping his knees as he keeps falling over and tripping and stuff. And eventually, I want him to like trip over some gnarled fucking roots and have them twist around his legs.
Oh, nice.
And then like have him be like, "Whoa, what's going on? I can't get my boat free." And he's like fighting. And then more the gnarled roots start like grabbing onto him and holding him in place. And then the Scarecrow comes sidling up, and like the vines and shit or like the roots and shit like hold Edgar up. And the Scarecrow just kind of looks at him and just starts cutting into him. Just slowly carving him open.
Okay,
so we see. Oh, good.
No, I know. I love this. I think it'd be fun to add a little touch, because where I thought you were going, and maybe this was just me like rewriting the story in my own head, right? But where I thought you were going was like some kind of like farm implement or farm tool as a weapon. So I know we used the big knife in the kitchen, and so again, go with me here. I think it might be interesting if leave the knife behind. And so while Edgar is running, maybe he doesn't just run blindly. Maybe when he runs towards from whatever barn or shed that he's at, he's going to run toward where he's got like farm tools, and he's going to grab like a sickle, those like half moon looking blades, right? But this one's like kind of rusty, which I just think makes it worse,
Yeah.
And then he's going to grab it and he's going to turn and like swing at where he thought the Scarecrow was, still over by the barn. Scarecrow's nowhere to be seen. Like Scarecrow's gone. And then but Edgar's just getting panic. He's like sweating and he's just like, these kids are getting real serious this year, or something. And then and maybe that knife, I don't know if we want to have the Scarecrow like throw stuff. Maybe he like the knife just like ping and it starts like shaking because he just threw it into the wood right next to Edgar's head.
Perfect. Yes.
And that's when Edgar takes off into the orchard. He still has this like sickle in his hand, and maybe part of how he's going to slow down and let the Scarecrow catch up to him is like he's running panic, but every once in a while he's turning and kind of swinging behind him, so he's not really running as fast as he can because he's kind of like in a panic trying to like blindly swing around because he keeps thinking that everything around him is the Scarecrow. And then eventually he trips over some roots, he goes sprawling. He still has the sickle in his hand, but like you said, the roots come out from the trees and they're wrapping all around him. They're gonna pick him up, and then maybe the Scarecrow to the camera, maybe not like in the story, but I think it'd be funny if the Scarecrow just came straight up into the camera view, almost like he was, growing out of the ground.
Yeah.
It would just be fucking creepy. And then have you see this like tree branch like swing over and like grab Edgar's hand and force it over to where the Scarecrow is, and he's just like plucks it out of his hand, like thank you very much, thank you for the sickle.
Love it. Love it. So yeah, oh dude, okay, so yeah, so everything you just said happens. He gets the sickle from Edgar, and like maybe he like kind of circles him around back, because I'm picturing like him going around back and just lifting the sickle up all shaky armed, because again he's made out of hay and stuff. Like picks up and just slashes down across Edgar's back. He's screaming, and we see the Scarecrow start just like pulling the skin back. Like nice. He's just like not quite, what is it, Blood Eagle? Not like that. But yeah. But just like ripping his skin open, and like we just hear Edgar screaming bloody murder, and like we see again, like let's do like the shadow thing where we see like blood hitting the ground, and like the Scarecrow's just ripping and tearing and shoving things. And eventually what I want to get to is we pan out and we see both Edgar and Phyllis like up on, like just kind of jammed onto the Scarecrow spot. Like pieces of them missing, like freaking hay and corn and all this shit like rammed into them. So there's like these corpses filled with debris stuck up on the new Scarecrow thing. Have the Scarecrow like, again, looking at him smiling, and then just fall apart. Like the spirit can now rest.
Nice. Yeah. I love that. That's a great way to end this. And yeah, fuck yeah, dude. That's awesome. Oh, let's have the black cat come back out again, just like we started. We kind of started this with Scott in the alleyway, and I didn't really plan it. It's just it's a good way to kind of draw the stories together. If the cat maybe comes over and like nudges some of the corn husks, or maybe even like licks some blood off its paws, and then we see the cat just run off, and then we can kind of cut to the cat is like in town, like running down the street again, maybe passing another character that we'll see later again, to kind of tie things together.
Before we do that, let's do one thing. So we see the Scarecrow fall, right? And we pan out and we see the bodies. Like we just kind of focus on the bodies, and then we see the silhouette of a figure there, and we turn the camera around to see Sam just kind of staring.
Oh yeah,
staring at the two new Scarecrows, and then turn to walk as he's biting an apple.
Nice.
And then do the thing you said with the cat, like walks by and like licks blood off its paw, then scurries away, and we kind of follow the cat.
Yeah, that's perfect. Especially when you think about when we see Sam in the first movie, he's a trick-or-treater. So he's like eating candy, and he even is stopped by Krieg by being given candy. Candy is kind of both the thing that he wants, it's his weakness, and it's kind of funny too, because there are people who give out apples at Halloween, so perfect. For him. He's like, he almost like, let's have the camera like blur the background and then refocus to the foreground. There's the cat who watches him, and then the cat like jumps away. So we're gonna use the cat to connect. Okay, where is our next character at? To orient ourselves. And in the first movie, they kind of jumped around in time a little bit. The stories weren't all chronological.
Yeah.
So that could maybe happen here, but so far, I'm not sure that really works. Unless we have the cat, go to the alleyway where Scott gets killed and then on to the next one. But it doesn't really matter. The point is, okay, so my turn for the story. So we're going to have the cat run to this cute little house, very much like Wilkins or Krieg's house we saw in the first movie. Just, cute little suburban house. And we saw in the first movie, and this is what gave me the idea, that when Wilkins was in his backyard, there is, for some reason, a full frame zoom in shot on a garden gnome in his backyard, and he's using it to like weigh down a tarp that's covering the grave that he's digging for this kid that he captured and tried to kill. And so I just thought that would be really funny. So we see this, we see the cat go to this little house, and he goes by this little garden gnome, but then there's like another garden gnome, and there's another garden gnome, and this cute little cottage style house, and it looks like, I hate to stereotype, it looks like your grandma's house. There's like wooden cutouts and like silhouettes of like little kids and cherubs and angels in the yard. And there's all kinds of just like stuff and tchotchkes and like the garden, and there's like a fuckload of garden gnomes, and there's like a fountain and flowers on the windowsills. Again, like
I can picture it perfectly.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we're gonna pan inside the house, or maybe, or the cat's gonna go into the house. The cat's gonna run in the back door, meow and jump up on the counter, and there's a woman there. And
Okay.
I know that Anna Paquin was in the first movie, but I'm always picturing her as this character when I thought of this story. I don't know why, so I'm just she's just gonna play this role too, in my head at least.
Gotcha.
So we're gonna call this character Anna, just to make it easier for me. So there's this woman there, and she's very much like Phyllis. She's like cooking. She's at the counter and chopping board, whatever it is, and she's gonna see the cat and be like, "Oh, you're back, hi," or whatever. She's expecting the cat. Like maybe it's her cat. We don't know that yet.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to just immediately jump into. I don't have all this dialogue worked out, so help me out here, because the dialogue, is not my strong suit. But something like she's narrating or kind of telling the cat what she's doing while she's cooking. But it's going to become really obvious really soon that what she's cooking is not like normal food, right?
Okay.
So she's going to be like, "Oh, you're just in time. Like I was just about to, uncork the tongue of frog for tonight's special recipe." And you see her cutting board, and it's all like slimy green tentacly stuff and like little powders of like weird colors and stuff. So she's clearly like a witch who's like cooking something.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where I need a little bit of help to get where I need to go, because basically what she's going to explain to this, I guess the cat will be our stand-in for the audience, is, that it's Halloween night. It's like the biggest night of the year, for her and her sisters. And she's so excited because it's the first year that she gets to, make the spell of protection for their coven meeting later, or, whatever, that they're going to have out in the woods. And she'll mention some other person's name, like, I don't know, Gretel. Maybe, Gretel is, is out there right now as we speak, setting up the bonfire. And Tara is drawing all of the arcane symbols in the trees or whatever, and just really laying on the fact that like she's a witch, but she's like bubbly about it.
Yeah, like she's almost like oh my god, do you remember Four Rooms?
Yes.
The coven that was in that, how they were all happy-go-lucky, and they were all just like, like all the witches were just like, they were so happy to be witches.
Yes. And there's this episode of Broad City where you don't really know if it's a real like witches coven in like Central Park in New York City, but Abby and Alana are just having a very like women empowerment kind of a day, and they hook up with these like older women who are just like, fuck society, fuck the norms, fuck the patriarchy, and they like dance around a bonfire in like Central Park, but it's like they're a witches coven, but they're also just ecstatic about it and just having a good fucking time, man.
Right.
But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm picturing it. So she's so excited, like, oh, I get to, make the protection spell this year, and I got to make sure I have all the ingredients. I have everything laid out. I have my like eye of newt, my heart of bat or whatever. Again, it's like very traditional witchy type stuff. And maybe she has like a little, like her hair tied up in like a little babushka wrap or something, But again, she's young, and so she's gonna go and mix up this recipe, but while she's doing it, she's telling the story, and she's like, I have to be so careful to like get the recipe just right, because when my mentor Magda was in charge of this recipe, she forgot like the most important ingredient, and which I don't know what that is. It's like tears of children or something.
Right.
But what she's doing is she's kind of explaining the rules of like, you have to make sure that it's exactly right. All the ingredients have to be there. You have to put them in the right order. You have to say the right spell. You have to like have the freshest most purest ingredients, all the while she's like chopping shit up. But then we're gonna find out that she's like a little absent-minded herself. She's like, yeah, when my mentor Magda taught me this recipe, she made this big mistake and she forgot the most important ingredient, and it was oh phooey, what was it again? It was and
Oh no.
and she's like, oh, I remember Tears of Children, and she like picks up a little vial and it has like some salt water in it. See, I wouldn't forget this. This is the most important part. And then she's gonna go back to her spell again, and she's gonna at some point she's gonna be putting stuff in and just be like, oops, okay, I can fix this. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then as she's doing that and explaining it to the cat, she's gonna hear some, just like before we like heard something creepy outside, she's gonna hear something smash like glass or like ceramic right outside, and have her turn and look and be like, oh, just kids again, kind of drawing the theme of like everyone thinks that these are just like Halloween prankers,
Right.
And we didn't talk ahead of time, so it kind of cool that we both kind of had the same idea.
Mm.
And so then she goes again, she goes about the recipe. The point is that she's gonna like sort of absentmindedly, but also kind of, she doesn't really care that she's making like little goofs, and she's telling a story about how it's so important not to make mistakes while she's making mistakes.
Yeah.
And I feel like the cat's gonna give her like a tilt head side eye at one point, like, really, bitch, like, what are you doing?
Like, come on now, you should know better than this.
Exactly. And so again, she hears a noise again, and we're gonna pan outside to the yard outside where we saw all that shit, all those like tchotchkes and stuff. And so what I'm hoping the audience will notice, but I don't want to like draw the camera in on, is that some of the garden gnomes are gone that were there before. They're not there now.
Ah, okay.
All right. So you see where I'm going with this now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go back in the house and then have her. She's going to be like, okay, now I need to, stoke the fire to exactly 575 degrees. So I'm going to need my biggest cauldron. Oh, phooey, I left it in the barn, or whatever, left it in the garage. And
Right.
so she goes and she opens up the back door and she hears this like ceramic smash again. And she stops and kind of cocks her head like, oh, whatever. Like, she's just kind of blowing it off. Nothing's going to scare her. She's so bubbly and happy. And so she's going to go outside. And maybe when she does, she sees again that the garden gnomes are gone. And maybe she's going to stop and she's going to look and she's going to be like, oh, and, where is, Mr. Beardy and his friends? Normally, Redcap Jr. is right here. Oh, well.
Where's Mr. Winklebottom?
Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that, right? So she goes out to like the garage and she's like digging around and it's dark. Again, we'll do the same thing that you said before. And it's kind of cool that this is like thematically similar, where like a fake red herring jump scare kind of a thing. She's in the garage and it's dark and she's digging around, and then like you hear this big crash and just she stands up and turns the light on and she's like, oh, I knew I should have turned the light on first, and whatever. She like knocks all this like shit over. Like, she did it herself.
Right.
So she pulls this big like black iron cauldron out. Oof, this is so heavy, and she's like trying to struggle with it, back out the door of the garage, and like, oh, like it's cauldrons are fucking solid iron, like they're heavy as shit, and maybe as she gets outside, like she stumbles with it, falls forward into the grass, and she looks up and like there's one of these garden gnomes, and then like you said, she's like, oh, there you are, Mr. Wigglebottom. Like, normally you're on the stoop. What are you doing over here? And like, she doesn't really expect it to answer. She's just, absent-minded and like weird and just kind of talking like she was talking to the cat. Like, she doesn't expect the cat to talk back. Except in this case, Mr. Lil Wigglebottom does respond. Except
shit.
He doesn't answer her. He doesn't. This is the thing that I thought was super creepy, and I hope you do too. Is I was like, how do I make garden gnomes scary? Because I saw that garden gnome zoom in Wilkins' backyard in the first movie, and I wrote a note down of like, gotta find a way to use that because no one would expect it, right?
Right.
So the gnome doesn't open its mouth, but you notice it also doesn't look like it's ceramically glazed anymore. You know what I'm talking about? Like there's that like shiny glaze you put on something ceramic to protect the paint or whatever.
Yep.
You don't see that. Like, it looks more real, and I want the audience to notice that. What's going to happen is it's going to imagine the garden gnome looks up, like it turns its face to the sky, except what we think is the face is not the face. That's the top of its head. So when it looks up, what it does is it opens up its neck, which is its fucking mouth full of needle teeth. And it has these little red glowing beady eyes that are like in the beard. The beard is like eyebrows.
Oh, that's creepy as crap.
and just have it be like, do this like mountain lion hiss right in her face, and that's when she finally snaps out of it and is like, you see her really get scared for the first time, and like her face kind of like goes pale, but of course she's like, oh fiddlesticks, no.
Oh, fiddlesticks. I love it.
So she jumps up and runs, and this little fucking gnome thing. Now, again, picture this. It's standing up, right? Like, you see these little gnomes, like the little red caps, right? Little pointed hats. It's not a pointed hat. It's like the back of its skull, like a little, like, xenomorph looking thing with, like, a spike on the back of its head. And it's standing upright. So when it goes to move forward, it's like little arms come forward and its knees bend, except because it's actually going down on all fours, the joints go the wrong way. If you can picture that, like animal joints.
Yeah.
So imagine this little garden gnome where its mouth is in its neck, its head is pointed straight up with a spike off the back, and its arms and legs, the joints bend the wrong way, and it fucking runs like a cat at you.
That's fucking terrifying. Like, I kind of want to draw this now. That's really creepy.
Yes, I hope so. I wanted to like invent a monster,
Yeah, no, that is something I can say I've never seen. Now, I've seen garden gnomes, in horror fiction, or just gnomes in horror fiction, but I have not seen that. That's fucking creepy, man. So kudos, damn.
Yes, nice.
So now my question is, like, is the gnome attack, is this going to be because of witchcraft gone wrong, or is it that because she did something she wasn't supposed to? Like, or is it just because they're fucking monsters on Halloween?
No. So the way I wrote this down, the whole idea was that I was like, how do I make garden gnomes scary? I was like, first of all, they're not really gnomes. They're these monsters but they're like, they have a spell that keeps them like petrified, and they just happen to look like little Norwegian guys,
Nice.
like David the Gnome, But so they're actually petrified creatures, and I mentioned this protection spell, and the idea is that garden gnomes, as we think of them as like lawn ornaments, are actually protectors. They're wards that are created by witches, and like that was the original origin of them, right? That you would capture these little creatures and you'd put them in your yard, and just by their spirit, just by being there, like totems, like enemies of the witch stay away. The Puritans and the people with the pitchforks and shit coming to get the witches. It's like they came up with a way to protect themselves, but they have to get the protection spell correct, and they have to redo it every year. So it's Halloween. It's the big night of the year. They're going to the big coven in the woods, and they're going to cast all the spells to keep Warren Valley, Halloween, or keep Warren Valley protected from the outside world, so they can have all the werewolves and serial killers and witches and shit that run wild all the time, and they're gonna, and so it's her turn to do the protection spell, and she fucks it up. So all the gnomes who are trapped become untrapped because the spell expired.
Okay, we got to back up because you had that light bulb moment. Okay,
sweet.
So, all right. So when she is, I'm sorry, what was her name? Did we name her? Anna. Okay, Anna. So when Anna's doing all this and she's talking to the cat and she's going on, she could be talking about how they used to be a coven of 4, and be like, but sometimes we all disagree, and not everyone can get along, and we had to kick her out, and maybe she's like looking at the cat like Mr. Boots or whatever his name is. It's like we had to kick her out because she wanted to use witchcraft, for her own benefit, for ill intent to others. Yes. And when you do that, it comes back on you threefold, and we don't want to be cursed. We want to make protection spells for our little town, and have her talking about that. So, because this is going to come back later, because they're like, I can't believe how well this fits together without being fucking planned. I'm so excited now. So we have to have that mention. We're not going to mention any names. We're not going to say she's just like talking about their fourth, the other one that we had to get rid of. So now we fast forward to where you were talking about, like where the gnome is chasing her because she fucked up the protection spell. I love it. So it isn't that she did something malicious. It's that she, her people had been using this powerful creature as a totem for all these years, and she just slipped up because she's absent-minded.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, shit.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not, yeah, to your point, it wasn't a malicious that she disrespected Halloween, but she still fucked up. It's like, it's like manslaughter, like involuntary manslaughter. Like if you kill somebody, even if you didn't mean to, like you still might go to jail for it. So it's like
Right.
she didn't mean to mess up this like witchcraft protection that the whole town had been under that allows, Sam and like I said, Wilkins and all these guys to, to thrive, without the outside world wondering why so many people die on Halloween in Warren Valley, Ohio,
Right.
But because she didn't pay attention to what she was doing, she messed it up, and now she's going to pay because all those gnomes that were in her yard are now awake, and they are fucking pissed because they've been trapped in her yard for who knows how long. It could be hundreds of years for all we know.
Nice. So okay, so we have to have that that the gnomes like chase her to the others, right?
Oh yeah, so at this point, it's just a classic like little critters story that you see in all these anthologies, right? Like the Zuni doll and the little possessed slave dolls from Tales from the Hood, right? Tales from the Hood had that story.
Yep.
But and I love those types of stories. A movie like Dolls, give me the willies. The little critters, like even the movie Critters and and Munchies, and they're not all good, but it's a horror tradition to have the little creatures, the little vermin rat type creatures that swarm. And so that's what's going to happen is this one that chases her into the house, but when she gets in the house she's not safe because she sees in every shadow the glistening xenomorph teeth or whatever, the needle teeth everywhere she looks. And so it's a pretty straightforward story from here. It doesn't have to have any twists and turns really. It's just her trying to survive this critter attack, but she's not gonna.
Right. So yeah, so okay, so like let's have her, fighting them in the house. Like we could have a couple different things, like do the horror trope, like tries to run up the stairs, maybe they're at the top of the stairs, run back down the stairs. You're like, we got to have the gnomes like scare her several times in the house, maybe get a couple bites on her, so she's she's a little, like her clothes are a little tattered and she's a little bloody from getting attacked. She makes it out to the woods. We got to see the other two witches like doing whatever they're doing and have whatever they're doing get fucked up because of the gnomes. So their spell never gets completed.
Nice.
So
okay.
Something's going to happen.
Okay. No, I love this. Right. So let's say they start as a group of, maybe she says, oh, we started with 6. I'm just thinking 6 is like 666, like, whatever evil number, whatever. And so there was one that like went astray. So then there's 5 of them left. That's her and 4 more. But we don't necessarily have to have them all here. But yeah, to your point, I think it's great. Like she's running, screaming, bloody, needle holes all in her legs from like the attacks in the house. And yeah, we could back up and explain it all, but I don't think we really need to. But just classic, she's throwing rolling pins at him. Maybe she manages to kill one of them by like throwing it in her, onto her cutting board and getting it with a knife, or throw it on the stove where she was, boiling snake brains or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, she can even throw it like in the cauldron. Like
yeah, exactly. So it's like we're gonna have a little bit of this back and forth where she's like the mom in Gremlins, trying to survive. But yeah, so she's gonna get away, and you think, oh, cool, like she's gonna run, and she's screaming, running toward the woods. You hear this like stampede noise, like way louder than it should be for these little creatures,
right.
And it's just getting louder and louder, and she's panicking and running and screaming. Yeah, and she gets to this place where they're building like a bonfire. They haven't lit it yet, maybe, but they're building it. Or maybe the one witch is like holding the torch. They're about to light it, and you see these like arcane symbols drawn all around. Maybe there's 4 of them, and one of the other witches is just like, Anna, finally. Wait, what's going on? Like, what's wrong? And they see her screaming like, help, run. And the fucking critters, the gnomes are just, I wish I could do the sound effects, but you just hear them, their pitter patter is like a stampede of horses just coming from everywhere, because it wasn't just the ones at Anna's house, it was every gnome. Remember, Wilkins had one in his yard, right? It was
shit.
So it's good. I guess that's really the only twist, is that there's more than we originally thought. But yeah, I want them to not just swarm Anna, but swarm the whole coven, the 4 of them that are there. And maybe like the torch falls on the bonfire and it lights up, and one of the witches gets tackled like into the fire, and like the coven meeting is just like fucked.
See, now I'm picturing them like the Izzes from the Max.
Oh, that's perfect.
Like the tidal wave of monsters. But yeah, so like she runs out to the woods, and like to your point, you know, they chase after her. They're like, you know, what the hell? Like they were gonna finish whatever spell they were doing, the protection spell, and they can't because the gnomes come attacking from
Hmm.
all corners. And yeah, like I love that. Like one tackles, you know, the one into the fire. She burns up. You know, the bonfire starts. The others just like, you know, maybe they swarm over like the critter ball in part two.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
swarm over one of them, and you just see like bloody remains left afterward. You know, so
Nice.
like they kill all of them, and then we should end this story with just like a pan out from the woods and just see all the little gnomes like crowded in one, like in a clearing in the woods, just like glistening teeth, blood all over them, just kind of smiling. So now
Yes.
they're free. They're
Yes.
out there.
They're finally free. Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. We could even make it. I don't know if you want to do this, but we could even make it so that like while they're destroying the coven meeting, maybe they're almost accidentally casting a spell because they're throwing a witch into a fire and they're messing up arcane symbols that were already drawn, and maybe there was some other like magical spell potion ingredients around. Maybe they knock over some like vials of powders or whatever. It's almost like in their stampede, it's like this was supposed to be a protection spell, but instead they fucked it up, and now it's a different kind of spell that they didn't mean to cast, but they've cast it with like the sacrifice of like the spellcaster in the fire, or whatever. I'm
Mhm.
not sure how we would explain it, but I think it might be interesting if you almost like saw that, yeah, at the end these gnomes, they're glistening in the woods, but like maybe they're looking at the bonfire, and the bonfire is like changing colors, and maybe there's like, did I see eyes in the fire? Like, what's happening here?
What if the gnomes start scratching into the dirt symbols of their own?
Oh, okay. I can get down with
So
that.
so like we don't know what these things are. So like they start scratching, and we see like all this weird, like almost like in another language, like other like writing in the dirt, and have them like giggling as we pan out. So
Oh
they're up
yeah.
to something.
I like that. Let's have the camera shot be like straight down. You can see like a circle of them around the fire, and yeah, it's like you're almost seeing like a mandala pattern or something that's coming into shape. We don't exactly know what it is, but yeah, just pan out, and then again, maybe we the camera moves, and there's the cat sitting there watching. The flames are reflected in its eyes, and it's just like licking a paw, and then maybe it like looks over, and Sam is there like looking down at it, and then maybe
Hmm.
Sam like shakes his head and like slumps his shoulders and walks away. you
Yep,
know
dragging his bloody bag behind him.
yeah, exactly. Right, and then of course the cat's gonna run off, and okay, your turn, Mike. Where does the cat take us next?
And it's funny because this is the story that I have about the black cat. So the cat came back.
Oh,
Um,
perfect.
so yeah, we
Nice.
see. We'll see the cat like run into town, and I want to focus on again another little kid who is a sociopath in training here. And now I put Tommy as the name because I was like, okay, we haven't used Tommy yet. We've used Billy and Bobby. So let's
Sure.
throw Tommy in there. Um,
Works.
but I want to have this kid like, maybe he's like sitting in like the like a tree house out behind his house, and we like zoom in on him, and we see him like pulling the wings and legs off of a fly, just kind of like laughing as it's twitching.
Nice.
Like clearly that's a little twisted, and then we could pan around his treehouse, and we could see like dead frogs in jars, and like like maybe there's like a dead bird pinned to the wall. Like he's been killing little animals. So,
Nice. Okay.
something is wrong with Tommy, obviously. And then, like he gets, maybe like his mom calls him like, Tommy, aren't you going trick or treating? They'll be like, coming, mom. And like he runs down climbs down the ladder from the treehouse. And, he runs up to the house. She like pinches his cheeks like, oh, you're so cute. I can't believe what a good boy you are. That type of a thing. Completely oblivious that her son is a fucking psycho.
Oh yeah, they
Um,
usually are.
yeah, exactly. So like, he puts on his little devil costume or whatever and runs off trick or treating. And while he's trick or treating, we see him being a total dick to the little kids. Like anytime a parent isn't looking, like he shoves a kid or like trips a
Yeah.
kid, just like laughing and running off. Like he's like not even out there for the candy. He's just like fucking with all the other kids, right?
Yep. And we already
So
saw with Scott at the beginning that like that's not cool.
Exactly. So, it's like Tommy's running through the neighborhood causing chaos. And eventually, like, he gets to, we'll have him, like, get to the end of the neighborhood, like maybe out by that drugstore we were talking about where the alleyway is.
Okay,
And
nice.
he sees a black cat. And he's like, "Oh, come here, little kitty." And he's like waving it over, and it comes running over and kind of like headbutts against him. And he picks it up and he puts it in his bag. And
Oh,
now the
little
cat's like,
bitch.
yeah, the cat's yowling and like, is trying to get out. And he like drags it into the woods and like starts beating it against a tree, Jason style, just like until the cat stops moving. We see blood in the bag, and then like he pulls this dead cat out of the bag and like kind of like, just stares at it, like, smiling with what he's done, drops the cat in the woods and leaves.
Oh, Mr. Boots.
Yep. So he goes back to his little tree house, and maybe he's eating candy. Well, he looks up and there's the cat sitting there watching him. He's
Of
like, "Where the
course.
hell did you come from?" You know.
Nice.
So maybe like, he goes to grab the cat and it claws at him. He's like, "You little bastard." He grabs it, just like literally like chokes it while looking it in the eyes, just like fucking murders the cat, like cold blood murder. Then, drags it. Maybe he like pins the cat to the wall like one of the birds, and he's like, "Ha, showed you." And
Nice.
like,
Yeah.
goes to go back inside, and he hears the meowing. Turns around, the cat's watching him.
Nice.
So it's like, what the hell? Like you can't be the same cat. Maybe like this time he just like grabs the cat and fucking throws it into traffic. Just like just
He should like just kick it, like, just punt it right into traffic.
right. And you just hear like, and maybe like when he does that, we can see somebody else from maybe like Edgar driving home or so. I don't know. We can see someone else from the town like, "Oh shit, what was that?" Just like,
Yeah.
and run over this poor cat. So like basically the point is he keeps trying to kill the cat, and the cat keeps coming back.
Yeah. Now, is the cat getting like messed up looking, or is it just totally fine every time?
Oh, just appearing fine. Just like, so you have to question,
Okay.
is it the same cat?
That's perfect. That's exactly what I was gonna say too.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. If you have something, go for it. Like I still have way more, but I'm open to suggestion.
No. This is good so far. I just wanted to make sure I was following along. But also, yeah, I like this idea that, is it the same cat? Is it the same black cat we've been seeing? Is it the same cat every single time? But I also like this idea of like, we could potentially like mix up the chronological order of the stories a little bit. Like you said, with like if Edgar drives by, because it's like, okay, well, he's dead. So that would mean if he's not dead yet, then we saw the black cat later. So that means that the black cat was dead, whatever. So I just want to make sure that I'm following. But yeah, continue.
Right. Actually, you know what? Let's not have him go back home yet. Let's have him do the thing like where he captures the cat by the alleyway, kills it in the woods, goes back out trick or treating. He sees the cat again, and maybe it hisses at him, and he does the thing where it's like, he maybe have him punt it into traffic here. So he punts it into traffic and like runs off. And then we have him like he's finishing up trick or treating. He's heading home. It's getting late, and we hear like the yowling coming from behind him, like a shadow, just like, and he's looking around like, what,
nice.
And then just like it's getting closer, like we hear it coming closer, and he starts running, like he's getting a little scared, tries to run home. And then like, he's as he's running, like maybe his shoe gets stuck in like some mud, like, it's like the goopy mud, like, so he pulls it out, he's running barefoot, and he hears the yowling, and then he turns, and the cat's sitting there on a fence post, like just watching him. And have this be the time where he like grabs it and fucking chokes, and he's like, you're not real, I killed you. And he's like just flipping out and like just brutally chokes this cat out. Cat's clearly dead. He looks around, no one saw him. He throws it in a leaf pile and takes off running. So have him, trying to get home, right? And then gets to the door, and he's like fumbling with his key, trying to get in. And we hear the yowling getting closer and closer and closer. And eventually, like, he turns, and there's nothing there. But then we pan down, and the cat's right behind him and just fucking bites into his Achilles tendon. He's missing a shoe now.
Yeah.
So,
that gauge under the bed injury, right?
Yep. And have him just be like, like drop in pain, just like, oh, what the fuck? Like screaming, freaking out. And then just hear more and more cats yowling. So he tries to run. He's trying to get to his treehouse, trying to get back to safety, where he thinks he'll be safe. And then we see coming from out of the woods, we see all these eyes watching him. And he's just like, no, I killed you. You can't be there. And we see the black cat. We see Mr. Boots just like kind of licking his paw, watching. and then have all these cats come out. They're like spectral cats and drag him off into the woods screaming.
Oh, I love this idea that they're like spectral cats. Well, that's actually pretty cool.
And then, of course, we have to have Sam petting Mr. Boots.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, that's just perfect. I like that. That's just like it's a quick, like little to the point story. I think it's awesome though. I love this idea of these like spectral cats, and I think too because we didn't plan it out ahead of time, but we both just did kind of like little critter stories, right?
Yeah.
Like the gnomes but what if, just to differentiate a little bit, and I think it'd be creepy, what if you saw these other cats, but when they come into view, it's obvious that these cats are messed up. They're dead.
Oh, yeah.
They're ghosts. Yeah. They're ripped up. They got 3 legs. They're missing eyes, whatever. Like, these are the monster cats. You know, whether they're ghosts or zombies or whatever. Yeah, they're monster cats are going to come, and yeah, they're going to, like I said, they're going to drag him. And we should do that, like that thing where he's like clawing the ground to stop him being dragged away and like breaks his fingernails. That makes everybody like get the goosebump willies, you know?
Fuck yeah. Well, yeah, and these are like the lives that the cats have lost, because all cats have 9 lives, remember? So these are the lives that have been lost by the cats already, and they are taking revenge.
I love it. And of course, this is awesome. I like the idea of the 9 lives, or hell, it could even just be, you know, like 8 cats or whatever. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And while they're dragging Tommy off in the woods, we can connect this into like what we just did, where we could see like maybe there's like smoke coming from that bonfire, you know, or something, right? Like, just if we wanted to connect the 2 stories together with like a little detail, you know.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And it also makes sense because we end the previous story with the cat watching the bonfire and Sam right there. So yeah, we see Tommy get dragged. Maybe he gets dragged past the bonfire.
Oh,
and we just see Sam and Mr. Boots watching.
Yeah, that would be really funny. Yeah, exactly. Like, it just gets dragged right past it, and just into the deep dark woods where, you know, obviously the gnomes are out there somewhere too. We don't know whatever happened to them.
Right. Oh, dude, I love it. That's fun.
This is great. This is perfect. Yeah, and I love it. Just, you know, it's a quick to the point kind of a thing. Okay, so I think this is perfect. What we're going to do from here, I think, is have Mr. Boots, that's his name now.
Yep.
even though he's just a black cat and he doesn't have little boot markings, but whatever. Mr. Boots is gonna go back into town again. Again, we'll see the same thing. He's gonna jump around the streets again. If we wanted to play with the chronological order of things, we could see a character we're gonna see later. Hell, we could even maybe see, you know, the Karen bitch from the first scene again, and maybe she's, you know, like on the phone yelling at somebody about, you know, like some, you know, estimate for work at her house or whatever. You know, just typical like Karen bullshit. Or maybe she's, you know, talking to a cop and you see that she's like accusing, you know, some black kid who's a trick-or-treater of like, you know, this kid's obviously got a gun. He harassed me, officer. You know?
Oh, I hate those people so much. Yes, that's perfect.
So yeah, we can have this little scene play out when Mr. Boots just like pads down the street, and then he's gonna jump up onto sort of at the edge of town. He's going to jump up onto a jack-o'-lantern and go to like settle in. And like, I just love this image of like a black cat, like nuzzled and about to take a little nap on top of a jack-o'-lantern. But then somebody grabs the jack-o'-lantern and Mr. Boots is like, what the fuck, you know, wow, and jumps away.
Yep.
So then we're going to follow the person carrying the jack-o'-lantern. Now, this is another one of those stories where I was watching the real Trick or Treat movie and I was inspired by something and I thought, okay, I can play off of that. Just like I saw the gnome and I'm like, I got to make gnomes creepy somehow, you know? So
kudos on that, dude. I'm impressed. Like I want to draw those. That's fucking creepy.
Oh, it'd be so fun.
I ain't even gonna lie. I don't mean to stop the podcast dead, but that when you were talking, like when you were given a descriptor, my legs are under my desk, and I kind of pulled them back and looked under my desk. Like it literally, like the image I had in my head gave me the willies. So.
Nice. No, I love that. And I got to admit too, I was totally inspired by the cartoonist Graham Annable. You know him. He does the Grickle comics.
One of my favorites. Yep.
Yeah. What was that game that he did? It was like a
Puzzle Agent.
Puzzle Agent, that's it. Yeah, there's like
Yes.
scary gnomes in that. That's the game I was. For some reason, the name of it just escaped me. But I was looking at, or I was when I saw the gnomes in the first movie, or the gnome in Wilkins' backyard, I just immediately thought, oh man, that's just like that game, and like those things were creepy, but they were like regular gnomes, and I'm like, I don't want to just copy it, so I gotta make mine creepy somehow.
Oh, the fucking hidden people give me the willies. That's like one of
Yeah.
my favorite shorts by him.
Oh,
But
that's right. Yeah, he's done like little cartoons and comics and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, that dude's awesome.
mhm.
So Graham Annable. But yeah, so back to this story. Another thing that I was inspired by was the story from the first movie, and I don't know if it has a name, but it's the story of the school bus massacre, right? So
Yes.
in this story, and correct me if I give the wrong synopsis here, but it's both a present day story and then it has a flashback inside, and it's basically the flashback tells of these children who went to this like special education school, and they were like the embarrassment of the town. The school they went to was on like the outskirts or like some other town, and this school bus driver, there's some kind of conspiracy where they were like just going to get rid of these kids, and he drives them into this old rock quarry, like bus and all, into this old
Yep.
rock quarry outside of town. And then later on in the present day, there's these asshole trick-or-treater kids who they gather up all these jack-o'-lanterns, and then they trick this idiot savant girl who loves making jack-o'-lanterns. They trick her into coming with them, and then they tell her the story. They take her to the rock quarry, and then they pretend to be these like spirits of like the dead children,
hmm
only to then be killed by the spirits of the actual dead children,
Yep.
or the zombies or whatever. But the thing that inspired me as I'm watching the story was that when they go to the rock quarry, there's this old like camper, like an RV camper with tables and chairs and stuff. Just no one ever mentions it. It's just
hmm
there. Like somebody who worked at the quarry was living there, and I'm watching it going, I need to do something with that. Like, don't put that in a movie and then not explain an old creepy camper at the lip of a rock quarry where there was like a massacre,
Right.
So I want to tell the story of the guy who lives in there. And so we're going to have another story with like a flashback. Now, the present day story is not as important, so there doesn't necessarily need to be any horrific situation involved. But like, what we can kill people. Why not?
Right.
So you see somebody grabs this pumpkin, the jack-o'-lantern that the cat was just about to go to sleep on, and pissing off Mr. Boots. But the point is, now we're going to segue into these two people who are talking, and just make it a man and a woman to keep it simple. And again, you would think I would like think of names ahead of time, but I never do. So since I mentioned Broad City earlier, I'll just call this woman Abby, and she's walking with her boyfriend, and his name is going to be Corey. Abby is the one who grabs the jack-o'-lantern, and she's like in the middle of telling Corey a story, and this jack-o'-lantern is like a visual aid. So she grabs it, and she's like, just like this one right here. So you see these jack-o'-lanterns all over town, and nobody ever questions why they're here or why people in Warren Valley love Halloween so much. And you think it's just like a tradition, or people brought over the tradition of making jack-o'-lanterns, from the old world or whatever, but that's not it. I swear there's a story, and I can't believe that people don't know about it. It's like everyone outside of this town has no idea what happens here for some reason, like hinting to like the protection spell,
hmm
and and Corey's like her like nerdy boyfriend, and I'm picturing the two of these as she's this like know-it-all person, but she also believes in like conspiracy theories and shit, and her boyfriend is kind of this like nebbish little tag along who's just he's just there to like hear the story. And so she was like, it happened right over here the very first time. And she walks over to where this old camper is, like, by the rock quarry, and then have her boyfriend, have Corey, be like, oh yeah, I've heard about this story. There was the story of the school bus massacre where all these kids, and she's like, yeah, whatever. Everyone knows that story. Shut up. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
But just a little callback, right? And then
Mhm.
she's like, no, not there, here. And she like turns and she points at the RV. She's like, this is where he lived. And of course, Corey's like, who lived in this, this piece of shit? And maybe he
Right.
like, he kicks the corner of it, and like, something falls off, whatever. Like this has been out here forever. It's like people don't even see it anymore. And
hmm
she's like, yeah, exactly. Like that's what the whole town like wants people to think, but they always forget the story of the caretaker. And then she's got to say his name. Which again, you think I would have thought of his name ahead of time, but but I never do. Oh, Wilkins. He's gonna be a Wilkins, just like
Okay.
what's his name? Dylan Baker, who was the serial killer guy.
Yeah, maybe he was his grandfather, because remember he talks about how important Halloween was to Grandpa.
Oh, that's right. I didn't even think about that. Okay, that's perfect. I love how that fit together. Okay. So, Abby is like, yeah, exactly. The whole town forgets about Mr. Wilkins. And then, Corey be like, the principal? Like, didn't he die?
Right.
It's just like, no, you idiot. Like, this was his grandpa, his grandfather. He worked here at the rock quarry. And then, again, back and forth, Corey's like, the quarry's been closed forever. It was shut down before the school bus massacre even happened. And she's like, yeah, I know. Did you ever wonder why nobody filled in this giant open pit in the ground right outside of town?
Right.
Which is what I was thinking when I saw the first movie, because I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like, it's this old, industrial site, and but why was it so easy for these kids to go down there? Like, you'd think people in town would have put up a fence or something, or
Right.
filled it in, or pulled the bus out or something,
Just let it rot.
Yeah. So there's a reason for that. That was the whole impetus for the story, is what is going on with this story of the bus driver and the school bus massacre? There's a lot of plot holes here, so I'm going to fill them in. So again, she believes in conspiracy theories, but turns out she's right this time. And she's like, okay. And then of course the back and forth here, where Corey's like, what are you talking about? This is so dumb. They ran out of money, they just left it there. The kids, they know not to play over here. They're all scared of the spirits of the kids who died in the massacre. That's why no one's ever gotten hurt over here. She's like, but people have gotten hurt over here, idiot. You're not following me. There's more to this than anyone wants you to know. She's like, okay, listen. And then we jump into the flashback, and she's gonna narrate this flashback. So I don't have the whole story. I just have the meat of this. So this is where we can collaborate to figure it out. So we flash back to the same scene they're at, but it's you do that thing where you fade to now the camper looks brand new. The chairs and tables and stuff are there. It's a bright morning, and or it's not a bright morning. It's the end of the day. It's quitting time, and you see this guy who's he's coming up in the elevator out of the quarry, and he's gonna walk back over to the camper, and it's hard to have characters by themselves explain things to the audience. So again, maybe he's talking to himself. Maybe the black cat is there, even though it was decades ago. I don't know. But the point is that he's basically, at this point, the quarry is already shut down, and he's there. His job is just to watch the place. He's the security guard. He's the caretaker. That's why his camper's there. He just lives there, and during the day he goes down and he patrols around and makes sure everything's okay. This could even be before the school bus massacre happened. In fact, it probably should be.
I think that makes sense.
And he basically has this dead end boring existence where he's just sitting in his RV, watching his old black and white TV, drinking his beers at night, and then during the day, just wandering around the quarry with nothing going on. And Wilkins had nothing in life to look forward to except for when Halloween happened, because in Warren Valley, Halloween was the most important day of the year, and it was the only time when lonely Mr. Wilkins could go into town and just let his hair down and have a good time, and everyone would accept him like he was one of them. But the other 364 days of the year, he was just living at the rim of this old pit from when they closed down the quarry. So this particular year, for some reason, Wilkins doesn't go into town for the Halloween party like he always did. This year, something went wrong. He's hurt, he's sick. I don't know. Let's figure it out. But the point is that he's there at the quarry on Halloween night for the first time, and to see the spooky shit that's going to happen. So right off the bat, let's stop right here. Why doesn't he go to town? What should we do to Mr. Wilkins? Does he get hurt on the job? I don't know. What do you think?
So now, is he embarrassed about going into town, or is he not wanted in town?
I think maybe people look down on him, or maybe we can mention something during the voiceover of how he used to have a wife and kid, and whatever, like there was some big scene, and she took off with their son, and he's like he's an embarrassment to the town. I don't necessarily want to cast him as a villain, make him out to be some kind of like a wife beater, pedophile or something, but something happened where he's like shunned by the town. He still lives there, but like he only goes into town on Halloween night because he can put on a costume and go party with everybody else.
What if it's something like, he had a family, he was a family man, all that. What if he was a bit of a drunk, and
Okay.
he gets into a car accident where he survives, but his wife and kid doesn't. So he's kind of almost shamed,
Oh, okay.
like
Yeah.
people are just like, because again, it's a nice little family town and blah blah. They're like, because of your alcoholism, you killed, like, maybe his wife was really beloved or something. So it's like people just kind of like, they don't like him. It's not so much that they're like, for shame, run from the town, but like people are just like, oh, this fucking asshole. Like they don't like the guy. So maybe he's ashamed, and he's like, he doesn't want to come into town, but because he can put on a costume, he feels like he can.
Yeah. Okay. That's perfect. No, I like that idea. Yeah. And I already mentioned him like spending his nights just drinking and watching TV, nothing better to do. So yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
how about during this flashback sequence at this particular year? Maybe it's the day before Halloween, All Hallows Eve,
Mm-hmm.
and he's drinking, and it doesn't matter if he's drinking in town or if he's drinking at the RV, but what we find out is when he's drinking, he gets rowdy. Maybe not violent, but he's yelling, he's singing songs, he's like dancing around. He'd be the guy where like if he had a gun, he'd be like shooting cans, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. He's just rowdy, and so maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's just outside, sitting at his little table, and he's getting himself drunk on the night before Halloween, just any old night for him. And he's getting loud, and he's like singing old drinking songs, and whatever. And you hear the neighbors yelling, "Shut up!" and the dogs are barking, and then like a police officer or the chief of police or somebody like rolls up and just gets out and is like, "Really, Wilkins, we're doing this again," and he's like, "Oh, Chief, shut up. It's almost Halloween. I'm just getting ready for the party. I'm just, I gotta be ready to have a good time tomorrow." And it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's the one night a year. And then, now this is where we get to explain the backstory with this officer who's like, "Yeah, I know, like it's the one night a year, you go into town." He's like, is this, the legacy here? This is what you want your wife, to be remembered by, your wife and your poor, whatever. He tells the story like, you lost your wife, your son, like people already think of you as a town drunk, and then you're going to stand out here and do this. Like, you're embarrassing yourself. He's going to
Right.
shame him right there, you know.
Yeah.
And then maybe during this exchange, Wilkins gets in his face a little bit, like, "Well, like, fuck you, what do you know about it? Like, I'm out here every night guarding a fucking hole in the ground. What the fuck is the point of this? Like, this is a bullshit, rat race job. You're just keeping me away from everybody because you're ashamed of me." And of course, the officer's like, "You're goddamn right we are. You're fucking
Mm-hmm.
drunk. You killed your wife. You killed your kid. And all you do is come out here and drink yourself to death. You come into town, you want to party every time you come. Every year you come into town and you get in a fight, and we got to kick you out. So you know what? We're not doing it this year. This year you're staying right here. If I see you in town, I'm putting you in cuffs. You hear that, Wilkins?
Ah, okay. Yeah.
And of course they're gonna kind of have it out, and maybe it gets a little violent, and yeah, maybe maybe the cop just cold cocks him one, and maybe, oh
Mm-hmm.
shit, yeah, oh, this is good. So they get in a little fight. Wilkins gets in his face, a little chest bump, a little push, and then the cop's just gonna bam, fucking sock him right in the nose. Wilkins goes down out, and then maybe the cop goes, "That's from my sister." Like, oh fuck.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Right. Like this is his brother-in-law, you know what I mean? Like, oh, that's fucked up.
Yep.
um
Oh,
and
that works.
and then of course the cop leaves, and he just leaves him laying there like asleep. It's again, it's the night before Halloween, and no, it is Halloween. Sorry, it's the day of Halloween, and he was tying one on, getting ready to go out later, right? And
Yep.
so he falls asleep there at the side of the pit. Night falls, it gets late, he misses the whole party. He wakes up, it's like almost midnight, and he's groggy and like, what the fuck, like, oh goddamn, Chief, what's his face, but now he's like, oh, he got punched in the eye, and his head's pounding because he was so drunk earlier, and he gets up and he walks over to the edge of the pit, and he's like taking a piss in the quarry, like off the edge of the world, kind of a thing.
Right.
And this is when he hears like this deep rumbling moan come from in the pit. And you see his piss trickle stops, and he looks, and it's like drip drip drip. It's like he's so scared he can't even finish it. It's like rumbling the ground.
The piss of fear.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. And then and again, it's like here's this rumble and this moan, and it's like this spooky, and then he's just like same thing we did before, like all right guys, all right, it's a funny prank, you guys can come out of there now. That kind of thing. And then you hear that moan, he grabs his head because he's got a fucking headache from all the drinking, like, oh, stop it. And then everything starts rattling. It's like I don't know, everything starts shaking, like almost like there's a little earthquake happening. You see little pebbles start dancing around, and like his empty cans all spill off the table, and that kind of thing. Then you see dirt and stuff raining down from the side of the quarry lip, and then he's like backing away, and then you see this like fog that's like coming up out of the pit, and then it starts to glow a little bit. There's a little bit of an orange glow, and it's like there's something coming up out of this pit, out of this quarry, and he's back. He hasn't even put himself away yet. He's scared pissless, and he falls over on his back and up out of this pit. It's like the fucking great pumpkin rises up out of like the quarry pit, but it ain't no great pumpkin. It's like if H.P. Lovecraft wrote it's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, right?
Yes. Fuck yeah.
So picture like Sam's pumpkin face, but like if H.R. Giger drew it, it's tentacles and it's spikes and 1,000 eyes, but also it's like this glow from the inside, like it's a jack-o'-lantern, like eldritch horror that rises up out of this pit at the edge of town.
It's got the dead lights.
Yes. Nice. Okay, so this is where this is the what I envisioned when I saw that camper, that old camper in the first movie. I thought, like, who lives there? Why does he live there? What's in that pit? Well, there's the eldritch horror that like gives Halloween Town its power. That's what's in this pit, and it has a jack-o'-lantern head, because didn't all these kids from the first movie, they all brought these jack-o'-lanterns to the quarry, and they never really explained why. Really, not with a good reason,
Yeah.
And so
just one to represent each of the children. That was it.
Yeah. So help me create this. What I want to say is that, like, and just like when Abby was, conspiracy theorying about like, oh, the real meaning of jack-o'-lanterns, the point I want to get to spoil it is that there's this eldritch beast that like lives in the town or under the town that sort of creates this like supernatural aura that attracts the werewolves and the witches and the gnomes and all these creatures to the town. And its head looks like a jack-o'-lantern. So like ancient peoples would carve pumpkins into jack-o'-lanterns, and they would like offer them as like, offerings to their god. And that's why people bring jack-o'-lanterns to the quarry. But like they lost the tradition, and every year at Halloween, when Wilkins goes into town, there's nobody there to like appease the god. But the one time that he's there, he's going to, but it's going to go wrong.
Oh, okay. I kind of love this because now Sam almost seems like an arbiter of this creature.
Nice.
Like he's an extension of the creature, making sure the town is following the rules.
Yeah, like an avatar or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And then avatar, that's the word I was looking for, not arbiter. But yeah, so he's kind of like the guardian or the avatar of this creature, making sure that the town follows the rules. But what if the witches that were putting the protection spell in place were the reason that this could continue on? Now, keep in mind, we fucked up the witch's spell. Maybe the witch's spell were what kept that thing from really like running amok on Halloween. So yeah, so if Sam is the avatar of this creature, like he's going into town and making sure like people follow the rules of Halloween, but maybe that's because like like the witches are using that whole protection spell to keep the town, to allow this to kind of happen. So, but like the fact that we fucked up the witch's protection spell. So what is that gonna mean for this thing now?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, that's awesome. Yes. Okay, I love that.
So yeah, so okay, so now I know you said this takes place in the past. So remember, if this is taking place in the past, then the witch's protection spell would be in place. So this thing can't really run amok. It can come up, it can come up on Halloween like it does every year, but it can't really run amok yet. So
Okay. Oh, that's good. Okay. So now we can do something with like the modern day story. Oh, I love that. Okay. Yeah. So Abby and Corey just became more important characters. Okay.
right.
Yeah, so in this like flashback sequence, it's like basically what I was picturing is Wilkins goes from being this like workaday schlub stuck in this completely pointless dead end job to almost the same thing, except now he's like every Halloween instead of going out and partying, it's like he's going out and he's like bringing like offerings to this horror that comes up out of the pit. And it's whatever they are. He's gonna bring it jack-o'-lanterns, like he's gonna steal people's jack-o'-lanterns, or bring people Halloween candy, or maybe it eventually escalates to the point where he's like, here's a trick or treater. It's like it's like the beast is never satisfied. Like he's able to mollify it, but maybe every year it's like harder and harder and harder to get the beast to like go away.
What if though? Hold on. What if I? Ooh, wait, hold on. I this is a different direction, but let me just throw it
Sure.
out there just in case. What if the reason it's appeased is because Wilkins is going out and like being a jackass on Halloween? He's causing trouble in the town. He's being a dick. Like he's the malicious part of Halloween. He's the trick of trick or treat.
Oh,
So
okay.
he's out there doing the bad stuff. Because remember, Sam is its avatar. And if Sam is its avatar and Sam does some nasty shit, like he's got like a bloody bag, he's watching people get mutilated. If you don't respect the rules, he fucking kills your ass. Like, so what if the part that Wilkins was playing, like the reason they put him down there and they didn't tell him his job is to just be a dick. And like over the years, it kind of got forgotten. So the year that he doesn't get to go out, it kills him.
Okay, yeah. So he's filling the role of like the rowdy partier, like the guy who,
Yep.
who goes to your Halloween party and, and eggs people, or, gets in a fight, or, whatever. Yeah,
He's the
I kind of like
Halloween
that.
dick.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I kind of like that. I think that's really cool. So yeah, exactly. The one year he doesn't, and then, like Papa Sam or whatever, like comes by the pit and is like, yo, what you doing here?
Right. Why aren't you out causing a ruckus? Come on now.
Exactly. But like, yeah, and maybe Wilkins doesn't really understand, and maybe Abby can say something like that, like, he didn't understand like what it wanted. It looked like a jack-o'-lantern, so he carved a jack-o'-lantern, and it seemed to like that, and then the next year he did it again, but it was like the thing was still there and it like wouldn't go away. So he went into town and he whether he stole some jack-o'-lanterns, or he stole some decorations, or he smashed some pumpkins, or whatever it was, or oh shit, maybe that's too. I mentioned earlier that I didn't want to do like smashing pumpkins because they did the like blowing out the jack-o'-lantern as like a shitty thing in the first movie, but maybe that's the connection here of like maybe that's what this thing wants. Is it wants the mischief. It wants him to smash pumpkins. It wants him to pull pranks. Maybe Wilkins has been like the secret prankster of Warren Valley all these years, and like nobody really knew because he's just that drunk guy who lives by the quarry.
Right.
Oh, I really like that.
Yeah, no, that's really like how that fit together is really nice.
That's cool. And maybe he even like stopped living at the quarry. That's why it was like his RV or is old and abandoned. And because what if this is like, Grandpa Wilkins, like fuck, he could even still be around. But again, he's like the masked prankster, and it's like, or maybe he's like immortal or whatever because of his connection to this eldritch beast. And maybe that's how Abby like knows about all this. Maybe he was going to like pass it down to her. So, maybe she's telling it to Corey so she could be like, and as my first trick, you'll be my sacrifice.
Oh shit. So, because I was thinking like, well, what if he passed it down to his kids though? Because remember, Grandpa or Wilkins in the regular movie, he's like, he refers to Grandpa as being how important Halloween was to Grandpa. So it's like clearly he learned it from somewhere. So what if that's what it is? Like, what if he's not immortal? What if he just passed it down through his bloodline? Because we see that Wilkins is teaching it to his son, and part of that mischief was sacrifice. So like you had said, like it became harder and harder to appease the creature because it wanted more and more mischief. Like it craves that like the violence of Halloween, the darker side.
Oh,
you know,
that's awesome.
So, and that's why it sends its avatar out, because it's like it has to get a little bit of that bloody side of Halloween. Well, once Wilkins finds out about it, because at first he was going out and being the mischief maker, the asshole that nobody liked, but the creature was loving it. And now it's like he can't go out, so he he carves the pumpkin and stuff. Like, yeah, that appeases it. Fine. He's like, okay, that's cool. I dig it. A little totem for me. I'm following what you're laying down there, buddy. And then the following year, he does it again. And it's like not enough. Yeah. And then like maybe it threatens him. Maybe it makes it look like it's gonna kill him. Maybe he kills the cop. Like the cop comes to find out what all the ruckus is, and like they get into a fight, and he accidentally kills the cop, and the thing just like it just loves it. Like maybe it rolls its eyes back and like makes like this happy like bubbly sound,
Yeah, like it's like having an orgasm or something because he killed a cop and then like threw his body in the pit. Yeah, no, that's perfect. It's like it has to escalate. At first, it's like make a jack-o'-lantern. Okay, great. Yeah, exactly. Steal some decorations. Steal some candy. Blah blah blah, smash some pumpkins. Yeah, and every time he's waiting for this thing to have like its little orgasm and go away. But yeah, to your point, maybe he didn't even really plan on like killing this cop. Yeah, the guy just came out to investigate the ruckus, and this time Wilkins was like, oh, you got me, you cold cocked me that one year, but fuck you this time, and he gets him. Yeah, and then exactly, it's like he throws the body in the pit, and the eldritch beast loves that, and then now that's how he's like, oh, I figured it out. And that's why you fast forward to his grandson, who's like the principal, and it's escalated to the point where this guy is like a straight up serial killer who's like teaching his psychopath kid to like carve pumpkins out of his schoolmates' heads. And so Abby's telling this story in the modern day to Corey, and maybe Corey's like, well, like whatever happened to Wilkins? And then that's what she says, like, well, yeah, he passed it down. Eventually he died, but he passed it down to his family. You mentioned the principal, he's dead, right? He's like, yeah, that guy turned out to be a serial killer. Everyone knows that. It's like, yeah, exactly. Like, put it together, Corey. Come on, knock knock, hello, McFly. Right. And have Corey be like, oh yeah, but Principal Wilkins is dead, and I forget his son's name. They're like, his son, he went to live with his aunt in like Maine or whatever. Like, so I guess the the legacy is over, right? I mean, why are we here? And then because Corey's an idiot,
right? And exactly.
And she's like, yeah, they may have killed my uncle and taken my cousin away, but like my last name might not be Wilkins, but I'm still here, and of course, and then she's just gonna she's gonna stab Corey in the chest or whatever, and then like throw his body in the pit, and then you just hear that like. Or you don't even see the beast anymore. You just see Abby, and her face is like orgasmic, and there's the orange light and the fog, and then you hear this moan,
and like the burbling sounds of the water.
Exactly. And then of course we're gonna pan away, and you see Sam, and this time instead of Sam just sitting there staring, Sam is like clapping his hands and hopping up and down. He's like, oh, Daddy's so happy, or whatever.
That's awesome. Yes, I fucking love how that came together.
Me too. Oh, shit. I didn't even plan that. I love that. The Wilkins thing was like a coincidence. But that's fucking great.
See, and this is what makes these so challenging and yet so fun. Like, I know this episode is running long, but my God, we came to the table with some loose ideas that we just mentioned to one another to make sure that we weren't stumbling atop each other's, ideas. But something like that, like I had no clue. All I knew was Eldritch Horror. That's all you told me, that it was an Eldritch Horror story. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't override, Scarecrow and Black Cat, so we're good. But it fucking fits together so perfectly. I love this. I'm so happy.
Me too. Me too. I love it. And it's like, and it kind of satisfies that need that horror fans have for like the origin story, but without really explaining everything. We didn't really say who Sam was, it's just, but you can kind of figure it out,
Well, now, I know there is a little thing, Michael Dougherty or however you say his name, the creator of this.
Yeah, Dougherty.
He did say, I want to say it was AMC Fear Fest. They for a couple years there, he was doing they were doing 24 hours of Trick or Treat, like very much how TBS does the 24 hours of Christmas Story.
Oh, nice.
And he was doing these little interstitials, like the little animated segments that we see the little one in Trick or Treat, and like he's done a couple of animated shorts with Sam. That was how the character came to be. But there was one where it was talking about the day after Halloween. And it was cleaning up all the Halloween decorations. And you see like, sheets and pumpkins and all this stuff littering the ground. But you see Sam's corpse. Like you see the corpse of Sam laying on the ground. And like his pumpkin guts are all spread over. And then you see like a seed go down into the ground and kind of giggle. And it's like, basically Sam returns every year. And it's just a new body. Like every year, like he dies November 1st, goes into the ground and hibernates, and then comes back every year. So the fact that we have this eldritch horror that comes back every fucking year, I'm like, this is so perfect.
Yeah, so I haven't seen that short, so that's awesome. Actually, I have it in my YouTube watch later list, because today while I was like looking stuff up, I was like, oh shit, there's all these like short stories and clips and stuff. But I was like, you know what? I don't want to watch any of them. I also haven't read the comics. I've been meaning to for years, but I'm like, I'm not going to, because I want to wait until after we do our stories, so I'm not like influenced. But now I really want to go read them.
Yeah, no, that was I'm very happy with that. So now we just have our final segment, which is the wraparound with Sam, where Sam has to teach somebody a lesson, and we got to bring it all together. We talked about the bitch Brenda.
Fucking Brenda.
So this little tale I originally titled when I wrote the idea for it, "Don't Be Such a Witch." So a little play on the fact that she's a bitch. But yeah, so I want to see like we're going to focus in on her. So maybe she's like we could have like I don't know, we want to see her doing something dickish. So like we saw the parade going on in town, the big party and all that. Maybe she's like trying to get food at like some little restaurant or something, but they're like, hey, sorry, closed for the party, or like closed for a private party or something. She's like, I'm gonna talk to the manager, like flipping out, like basically just being a fucking bitch. And then have like maybe we see her like do some kind of little curse, like just something like some kind of little hex on him, like almost like how some people like do the evil eye like type of thing. We could do something where we're questioning like, what does she think she is, some kind of witch or something? Like we could kind of play that up. Like she's fucking weird. Eventually she trots her happy ass home, and we see, she's got no decorations, no pumpkins, not in the spirit of Halloween at all. She goes home, and because people see her walk in, like a bunch of kids come running up to the door, and they're like, trick or treat, trick or treat. And like she comes back to the door, and she's like, get out of here, you little bastards. And like, she slams the door, and so we see the first set of kids she's just mean to. And then eventually like she's going around the house, maybe she's putting out a pot of tea or something, and then we hear the doorbell ring again. She's like, I'll fix these little bastards, and she grabs her cat's litter pan and like runs to the door and like dumps fucking used kitty litter all over these kids. And they're like,
come on.
Yeah, they're crying like, oh, and she laughs at him and closes the door. Like we're basically, we just see she's torturing these poor trick-or-treaters. She turns on the news, and like there's a report of like a kid being found dead in an alley or something, and she's like, serves him right, little brat, like just an all around hateable person, right? But I want to see a picture on the wall of her with the witches from your story.
Oh, nice.
This is how we can tie this one together.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you mentioned that there was one that like left. Okay, yeah.
Yep. So she's the one that got kicked out of the coven. So she is actually a witch. But clearly she's not into being a nice person. She's not into protective spells. And we already talked about how, she was kicked out because she was using it for her own gain, and she was using it for ill intent. So.
Okay, yeah. So she's as much of a Karen to the other witches as she is to like in general. Yeah, no, that's really good.
She's totally a Karen all around. So yeah, I figured we could use the idea of the trick-or-treaters coming to her house, like to just show like what a dick she is. But one of the groups, I want Sam to be with them.
Okay, nice.
So we have the trick-or-treaters come. Maybe the kitty litter house. Maybe or the kitty litter time. She comes. They come to the door. She throws a kitty litter, and maybe Sam's standing behind the kids. Like the other kids run off crying, and he's just standing at her staring. And maybe she's like, "What? You didn't get enough Tootsie Rolls, you little bastard!" Just like yelling.
Yeah, I love that.
And then he just like turns his head and walks away. And it's like, okay. And then we could have him start tormenting her. So, I mean, shit, let's just take a page out of the first one, like have a window get shattered or something. And like, maybe it's like a nasty ball of kitty litter with poop in it.
Like just throwing it through her window.
Like he just wadded it up.
Oh, okay. So I see where you're going with this, right? I like this idea. It's kind of like the Krieg story, but obviously,
Yes.
with another character who's really disrespecting Halloween. And this is a witch. This is somebody who should be respecting Halloween and who has kind of turned her back on it, almost like betrayed it. And so we talked all through these stories, not planned, but somehow what came up in almost every one of these stories was like, oh, you little bastards playing pranks. Right. So that's what's perfect here. Let's have Sam do the classic Halloween pranks, but in a twisted way, like throwing eggs, throwing toilet paper, I can't think whatever, burning shit on the
windows.
burning shit on the porch in like a plastic bag or a paper bag, whatever. It's like the classic pranks, but like to, a murderous, level. But I think that would be pretty fun.
Yeah, no, I dig that. Yeah, so let's do that. We'll throw like maybe hold on, let me back it up. So okay, when the kids come to the front door, they and they go trick or treat, and she like dumps the shitty litter on them, and they're freaking out. Like, so now we see that they very prominently said trick or treat, and Sam tilts his head. Maybe a brick comes through her window with a note attached to it that just says trick then.
Nice.
So like,
you
chose tricks, so we're gonna play the tricks. So like, she when she pulls open her front door to be like, "Oh, throw this right," she sees like all like the trees and everything around her front house, like her nice picket fence is all covered with like fucking toilet paper, and like there's toilet paper hanging from the trees and all that. She's like, "What the hell?" And she looks over at her car, all the windows are soaped up. Yep. And she's, "I'm gonna call the cops," and slams the door.
Yeah, because she's the ultimate Karen. So doing like, quote unquote fun-loving pranks is like the worst thing you could possibly do to somebody like her. It's like it would be worse than if you had actually gone and like hit her, because you're like disrespecting, the proper order of things as she sees it, not as like Sam and the rest of the town sees it. Yeah,
exactly.
no, that's awesome.
So she gets on the phone. She's like, dials 911, and while she's waiting, like we hear the telltale sign of like a fire start. And then we see the light reflecting, and she looks over, and like we see like fire outside of her front door. So she drops the phone and runs over and opens it up. And of course there's the flaming bag of shit, like you said, and she starts stomping on it, and she gets poop all over, and have it squirt up, like cover. Yeah. And of course she's not going to say, she's just going to be like, "Duty!" Just like,
just like Anna did too. It kind of connected the other witch, where she was just like, oh, poop and fiddlesticks. Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm picturing her very much like Annie Wilkes from Misery, like that kind of that kind of mentality.
Yeah.
But, so she's good.
So I have one idea too for like the eggs. We got like, you got an egg house, right?
Yep.
So I don't know what you were about to say, what happens next, but I'm just thinking the eggs has to be where we level it up. We did the regular toilet paper, regular soap, big nasty thing of poop. The next level is like when she goes back in the house, like eggs just start pelting, boom, 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 like all over, and like hail hitting the house, and then eventually they start smashing through the windows. It's like a machine gun of fucking eggs coming through the windows. But then when the ones inside the house, they start hitting the walls, hitting the floor, hitting her. But now instead of, at first they're just like nasty, rotten, like bloody looking like yolks inside, but then have one of them like hit her, and she goes to peel it off, and there's like an actual like little baby bird inside, but then it just starts pecking her hand. You know what I mean?
Oh shit! Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And now we have these like little like monster baby birds that are in her house, just cheap, and like pecking the shit out of her. You know?
That's, you know what, that's even better than where I was going, so we're going with that. So let's like, yeah, so she does the whole duty thing. She freaks out, and then like she slams the door and she runs back to grab the phone, and before she can grab the phone, that's when we hear like the machine gun barrage of eggs pelting the house. And like at first, like maybe she drops the phone and like covers her ears because it's so fucking loud. You know, it sounds
Yeah.
like a hailstorm, and she's just like, oh my god, what's happening now? You know, she looks out and she sees like splattering eggs all over her window, and then eventually, like you said, the window starts to crack, and then it cracks open and eggs start coming in. They're smashing all over. And yeah, I love the idea of like one of them sticking to her face and it being like a weird demonic bird. It just starts like pecking at her. um
Ugh.
so she's freaking the fuck out. We could see her like running around. Maybe we see from outside, we see like her running around through the house, like
Mhm.
swatting at like these little birds that are chasing her. And then we see Mr. Boots like walk across the fence, you know,
Yes.
just like walk past.
I was just about to say that Mr. Boots should be watching it through the window. It's like,
Yep.
what a bitch.
Maybe he stops and does the meow, just keeps on walking, you know.
Oh, you know what would be fucking great too? I'm sorry. Is
So go for it.
all the way back to that very first opening sequence when she comes out in like the Starbucks with her like ridiculous pumpkin spice latte, and she bumps into that one trick or treater who had the worst night of his life because then Scott like stole his candy and dumped it in the sewer or whatever. So this trick or treater, like whatever his costumes, one that we could remember, like the classic ghost or something.
Mhm.
That same trick or treater, maybe now he's standing outside her house, like he was just walking by with his friends, and like they all keep going. He stops and he's like watching this barrage of eggs and this crazy lady running around inside with Mr. Boots. Maybe he like pulls off his like little his classic ghost sheet, and it's just like whoa, and it's like I just wanted it'd be a cool thing to just like get to see him, but he's just gonna stand there and watch her like, yeah, get her, get that bitch.
Oh, we should totally do right there. It's like say everything you just said, but like when he pulls off his mask, he'll be like, "Whoa!" Have somebody tap him on the shoulder and have him turn, and have it be Sam holding out a candy bar to him,
Yes.
and the two of them that just sit there and eat candy and watch through the
Oh,
window.
dude, popcorn balls. Like eating popcorn, like they're watching the
Yeah,
movie, like little popcorn balls, like a little caramel
yes.
popcorn ball. Yeah, exactly. Like him, yeah, he's gonna like you fist bump with Sam and stand there and watch
Oh,
the fun.
that's fucking perfect, because now it's like this kid had a horrible night, but like the avatar of Halloween's like, here's some candy, kid. Like, I
He's like,
love it.
I got you covered, right?
Dinner and a show. Here you go. Um,
Exactly.
so yeah, so we go back inside, and like Karen's like, she's running through the house, she's swatting at these fucking like featherless demon birds that came out of rotten eggs. You know, she runs upstairs and like slams the door, like, we hear the birds like squawking and pecking at the door. And maybe when she, she turns around, her whole room is trashed. Like,
Oh
what?
yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Who's doing this? And like maybe that's when she's like, I'm a witch, I'll curse you. And like she starts like grabbing her books and stuff and is trying to like showing that she is not above using it for
Hmm.
her own personal gain. Um so what I want to eventually happen, I'm kind of stuck here, but I
Okay.
want to have happen is I want to have Sam reveal himself to her and like have her absolutely fucking terrified. Like at first maybe she thinks it's a kid, and then of course we're gonna do the face reveal because you got to do that. And maybe it's a little more gnarly this time because remember Sam comes back every year. Well,
Hmm.
so maybe he's a little different. Maybe he's a little like more like he's more toothy this time. Like he's got more demon teeth, kind of. Because remember before he kind of didn't really have any teeth in there.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
so
No,
maybe
I think.
maybe his jack-o'-lantern face is carved in the traditional jack-o'-lantern toothy grin.
Oh yeah, so his face, it's like a pumpkin still, but it's just a little bit different now, a little bit more classic. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I think we could do something pretty interesting here where I mean we had Krieg in the house, so what if we maybe got her out of the house and
that's
that kind of
yes.
opens things up a little bit. So what if exactly that? It's all this prank shit, like the rotten eggs and the little birds, and yeah, she runs upstairs. Maybe what she does is she runs into her bedroom or office or whatever, and she like has her like grimoire and her bottles of potions and stuff because she's obviously a witch. Like so, she's gonna run in there, slam the door, and just gonna be like I don't know who's doing this, but I'm gonna show you. And she like opens up the book and starts like pointing at a spell. It's like, ha, when did they see this? And she's like, okay, all I need is tincture of salamander. Like, where is that? And she turns around to her, where it was like her workspace, and like everything is smashed, like you said, smashed, and maybe there's like a little like fire in the corner, and then she's just like, what the hell? And then so she's like, oh, it's okay, I can make this work, I need to improvise. Okay, so she's flipping the pages and finding it. Here we go. Okay, so all I need is like hair of crone, and she like pulls a hair out of her own head, and I need I can't think of it, and then I can't think of all the ingredients, but like while she's trying to like figure this out, like, okay, maybe I need like, skull of rat. Okay. And she's like digging around in the ground trying to find, no, that's a mouse. No, that's a ferret, whatever. And whatever it is, like, but in like sort of a panicked kind of a way. And then you hear like the banging on the door, banging. And she's getting more and more and more panicked, like trying to finish this spell or this little potion. And maybe she finally like gets it all together, and she stands up just as like, Sam, now he's not banging. It's like the door just opens this time. Great.
Okay. No, I love where you're going with this, but we want, like you said, we want to have him get her outside.
Yeah.
So maybe he doesn't reveal his true face yet. So like, he pops up in her house, and like, she sees that it's, a little kid, and she's like, you've been the one causing all this trouble. Like now she's like, maybe fuck the spell, I'm just going to beat the shit out of this kid, cause it's a kid, so she goes to come at him, and maybe he does the thing, like maybe not the sucker, maybe it's the candy bar with the razor blade in it. And he just fucking like stabs her in the thigh and runs.
Yeah.
And so she's like, oh, I'll show you. And maybe she chases him. And he
nice.
runs out of the house into the woods, and she's chasing after him into the woods. And when she gets out to like, gets to a certain part of the woods, maybe there's just like pumpkins everywhere, right? Like jack-o'-lantern.
Okay.
Very much like how the girl's house in part 1.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep, she had lots of them.
Yeah, so I want to have her like walk out and be like, what? Or maybe maybe that's just right in front of her house, because remember Sam did that to Creed as well. Like he put all the jack-o'-lanterns. So yeah, when she runs out front, there's all these jack-o'-lanterns everywhere. And she's like, what the hell? Who did this? And she's pissed. Maybe she starts like knocking them over, like smashing them left and right. And she goes to grab the one, only it's Sam's head. And he
nice.
And he just like shrieks at her, and she screams, and then we see him pick like his body pick up the pumpkin and put it back on and chase after her. So she now runs off into the woods, and he's chasing her. Because what I want to have happen is I want to connect it back to your story with the witches, where their spell didn't go right. So there isn't protection. And remember, the gnomes were doing something themselves.
That's right. Yeah.
So what if she gets chased out there, and we see the circle, the big circle that the gnomes created, and Sam just chases her out into the woods, and he kind of smiles and just sits down and crosses his arms. Like he's just, and she's like, what do you want from me? What do you want? And then like the ground starts to crack open beneath her, and have her like nice. Freaking out. And we see like fire shooting up. And then we could even have the voiceover of Anna being like, if you use spells for ill intent, it comes back on you threefold. And we could see like a flashback of Karen doing, or Brenda doing all these horrible things around town, and like using spells for her own gain, like just a quick montage moment. And then we can see like fucking like red arms like reaching up out of the ground and grabbing at her. And like you could hear like demons howling and stuff, and they drag her to hell.
Oh yeah, no, I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely like tying that back into the other Witch Covenant thing, because I mean, at the time it was like, okay, like let's leave this open ended. You're not going to build like a Witch Coven, bonfire with arcane occult symbols and stuff, and then just like forget about it. It seemed like it's something we could do something with. So yeah, no, I think this is really cool. Where exactly, like he drags her out there, and maybe she like sees all the gnomes just like growling at her like in the shadows. Let's tie it back.
Shit.
Or
have the gnomes and the spectral cats all watching.
Oh yeah, the spectral cats are there too. Yeah, that's right. And maybe the scarecrow is there. Maybe you hear that rattlesnake rattle of like the corn husks, and the scarecrow is gonna stand there and watch. Like, why not? Let's bring it all together.
Fuck yeah.
Right. And
And what I was gonna say after she gets killed, like when we're gonna close up the movie, we need to pan like over the town and see the quarry and hear the blah, 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 hear the bubbling.
Yes.
Like
Yeah, one more
Dennis
time.
Sam
Yeah.
is happy.
Exactly. One more time. Yeah, no, for sure. But like backing up to the sequence too, she could even maybe say something like, "You'll be sorry when my sisters get here. Like, they may not like to associate with me anymore, but like they'll see that I was right all along. Like, whatever." Like she says some
Mhm.
Karen ass bullshit, and of course, like, she's gonna look around and she's gonna see the gnomes and see the scarecrow and see the spectral cats, and it's gonna dawn on her that like this night has not gone the way that she would have expected.
Right. Something has gone horribly wrong.
Exactly. And as a witch, like, she would recognize that like the protection spell is broken, and like, like all hell is literally breaking loose, and here it comes.
Well, yeah, and it could be like maybe she's saying like all the things you just said, like, when my sisters get here, blah blah blah, and you could hear like the growling. She looks around, she sees the gnomes, and she recognizes what they are. She sees the zombie spectral cats, like she sees Mr. Boots, maybe she sees Sam, sees the scarecrow, and then like she looks around, and in like the trees, like all around, there's like pieces of her sisters, like there's
Oh,
intestines
yes.
hanging, and like maybe
Oh,
a
yes.
witchy hat,
Yeah, and the one like burned corpse is like, strung up like Jason would hang it in the woods, the one that fell in the bonfire. Yeah, actually I think the last thing that she should see, like she's looking around, her eyes should fall on Mr. Boots, and then let's not explain anything, but let's just have her like squint her eyes and look at him, and it's like her expression is saying, "I knew it was gonna be you," or something.
Yep.
Like it's like she recognizes that fucking cat. Like I should have known, like that. Like the Karen would think about like the annoying neighbor or something like that.
Yes.
Oh god, yeah, I love this. She gets dragged into hell. Sam is watching Mr. Boots, and then the camera pans up, and yeah, exactly, just like you said, we pan across town, and it's like maybe at this point, everybody's headed on home. The night's over. You see, as we pan through town, we see people are, going to sleep, and the streets are clear. Maybe a couple of like random, drunken people, last minute trick or treaters running to get home. Yeah, and then we out past the RV. We hear the bubbling in that last minute, coming from the pit. Cut to black.
Yes. And then we cut the credits at the end. Oh, dude.
Hey, this worked out so well.
This came together so much better than I expected to. I was nervous. I was fucking nervous because I'm like, this is the first time we have done a multiple part story and tried to string the stories together. Now, I know we did our Mousetrap episode where we had all the random qualifiers, but this is like trying to string, like we each came up with 3 different stories and tried to mesh them together.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, we did talk a little bit ahead of time, but like you've mentioned already, it was really just making sure that we weren't stepping on each other's toes. And like there was one thing where it was like, okay, let me twist that slightly. Like Scott was a little bit older originally younger than I had originally had him planned to be, but that was just so it wouldn't, step on something else. And yeah, it was like, but other than that, it was like, yeah, I had my ideas. I wanted to have like the mean person who steals trick or treat candy. I wanted to do like a classic anthology critter story and use that gnome that I saw in the first movie. And I thought, what better type of horror than an eldritch horror? Like you can always like, if you're stuck for ideas, like, Lovecraftian monsters are certainly a way to go. And and that's really, but yeah. And then you came in and you were like, hey, you were like Scarecrow, Black Cat, Witch. And I'm like, cool. I didn't do any of those. So it fits,
and that's the thing. Like I was just going like, I'm like, all right, basic Halloween tropes. Let's go. And I'm really happy with how this came out. Like I know I say this a lot, but I'd love to watch this.
Yeah, heck yeah, dude. I love this one. Yeah. And I think it's, different enough that from the first movie while still, fitting into the same type of format. I was able to do callbacks to the first movie with, my Great Pumpkin, Mr. Wilkins, story, which turned out way better than I thought. Like way, way better than I thought. I was not expecting to do an origin story. I really just wanted to do like the monster in the pit, but it really, really worked out well. Yeah, I think this one was a fuckload of fun. So hell yeah, dude, happy Halloween.
Yeah, absolutely.
And happy Halloween to everyone who's listening to this. If you're listening to it on Halloween, we hope you have a great time. If you're catching up to us later, that's okay too. We hope you had a great spooky season. We actually have more spooky stories coming, like we promised, all the way to the end of 2023. We will do some non-horror stuff in 2024. We already have 2 pretty awesome episodes that we're planning, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We have more cool episodes coming up, some more really fun stuff that I'm super excited about. And in the meantime, check us out at raisedbyrentals.com, at Raised by Rentals on the socials. We also belong to the Rad Pantheon, a super team of podcasters, artists, musicians, you name it, a bunch of cool creative friends supporting each other and helping to spread the gospel of rad stuff. If you like this show, there's a pretty good chance you're going to dig one or maybe all of our Rad Pantheon teammates at radpantheon.com and at Rad Pantheon on all the socials. Mike, do you want to add anything?
Just also the same day this drops, we will be dropping a Halloween special over on the Boogeyman's Closet. So check out the Boogeyman's Closet on all of the socials or Boogeyman's Closet on Podbean. It's a great way to find it. Josh actually pointed this out to me, our archived episodes, I guess you would say, because Apple only holds so many, and I don't know if that's the same for Google Play and others. I'd have to double check. But on Podbean, all the episodes are listed, so that's a great way to find us now that we are officially over 250 episodes into that podcast. So yeah, check out Boogeyman's Closet on Facebook and Instagram. Also, I just want to give a quick plug to my Instagram and my TikTok, where it's a Zaracis, a Zaracis on both. I've been doing a lot of I've been doing daily drawings, and there's going to be a lot more artwork coming up as I'm getting back into working on a children's book. So there will be more stuff going on, more artwork going on the social media. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you mentioned that. And I want to mention just 2 more quick things. If you like anthology horror as much as we do, you should also check out the recent episode of So It's Come to This, a Simpsons family podcast, where the normal hosts joined with the Boogeyman's Closet and covered another episode of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror series. So that was a great episode that just recently came out as we record this. So it's definitely out for the Halloween season. So check that out. And I'm just going to preemptively point out something that I wrote down, didn't mention it earlier. Trick or Treat came out in 2007, which is after the VHS era. Normally, that's the era that we cover on the show. So before any nitpickers out there pick that nit, I will say, yes, we know. But the last VHS release of a major Hollywood movie was in 2006. It was A History of Violence. The movie came out the year before, but the VHS came out in 2006. This came out in 2007. So I'm going to say we're pretty fucking close. So there.
Exactly. Plus, if we've done anything on this show, as we've evolved and changed over time. So, that's one of those little nitpicks that while we will mostly stay in the VHS era, we might stick a toe outside every once in a while.
Yeah, just like when we do our original improvs that aren't based on anything. So we're not really improving anything. We're just improving. But anyway, thanks for tuning in to the Raised by Rentals program. If you had fun with us, visit us on all the socials that we already mentioned. Leave us a comment, leave us a podcast rating, and let us know what you think we should improve next time. And with that, I'm Josh.
I'm Mike.
We have to return some videotapes.
Okay, and we are back for yet another episode of the Boogeyman's Closet. This is episode 20. As always, I am Mike Alvarez.
Maurice Gulliver.
Susie Hunt.
This is Trick or Treat.